This is Motorsport Radio. This is Motorsport Radio. This is Monday Motorsport with Lester Forbes on Motorsport Radio.
Hello and welcome. This is Monday Motorsport. My name is Lester. This is Motorsport Radio here on a Monday night. Coincidentally, yes, it's the 18th of September already. Wow, how time flies. Coming up on tonight's programme, we will be talking about just about everything that happened. Well, not quite everything, but the main things that we saw on the TV box over the weekend. Starting off with some big breaking news. Kind of over today and over what happened from the end of Sunday night. Plus we'll be talking about Formula 1 as well. Whose fault was it? Who should be blamed? Who should be banned? And driver standards and all that. Same as applies to touring cars. We'll be having a big touring car debrief later in the show, and we'll be talking TCR UK. Yes, the calendar has been announced last week, a couple of days ago, and we will get our TCR expert, Phil Kinch, in on the show to talk about it with us. And also we'll be mentioning a little about the World Rallycross Championship as well, which happened at the weekend. Bad news for Petter Solberg as well. We'll tell you more about that as to what the situation is with him a bit later. British GT Championship action this weekend, and it's the final round. It's the showdown, and it's at Donington Park. Dan Maher and friends will be there. He's also here on tonight's show talking about it with us in just a moment. And also the British Formula 3 Championship now wrapped up, and it was won brilliantly by Enem Ahmed at the last round at Snetterton. Dominant, so dominant over the season, and we'll be probably hearing from him towards the end of the show, getting a champions interview with him to find out what he has to say and what he thinks ahead of this weekend's final at Donington Park. Well, because we're live, you can interact with us and get in contact with us on the show here tonight. We are absolutely live, and we will be having some guests along with us tonight on the programme, including Ryan Forward from the Welsh Motorsport blog, Motorsport in Wales. He'll be on a little bit shortly, and Phil Kinch, the World and European Rallycross expert for the Checkered Flag, and TCR Guru at tcrguru.com. Yes, they'll be coming up in just a moment. But first, it's Dan Maher with Dan Maher's. With Dan Maher, yeah, he's got a logo, he's got a name usually. That's how the jingle goes for him. Dan, thank you for welcome, and thank you for being on the show once again. Hello, good to see you again.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's all about a change of scenery now. I have a wall instead of a curtain. So
Dan's moved house recently. It would be the big breaking news of recent days. And yes, so how are you? I suppose it's only polite to ask. How are you coping and settling in your new abode?
It's going well, thank you. Soon we'll have fibre internet now as well. So hopefully it doesn't drop too much. So yes, touch wood.
That would be an ominous concern for tonight on the show. So if Dan ever disappears,
it'll cut me out. It'll cut me out mid rant. I can assure you. Or that might just be Lester.
I never go on rants. Everybody knows I don't ever.
No, you're such a well-rounded and nice person.
Damn right. Yeah, absolutely. So Dan, we will begin with a bit of news that kind of emerged over the past few hours. Nick Tandy is to drive his Le Mans winning Porsche at Brands Hatch at the touring car finale in a couple of weeks' time. It is admittedly a bit of a Porsche promo event. We don't really care about that, but it will be as part of a couple of different Porsche demonstrations, along with the GT3 Cup car and their 918 hypercar as well. But the most important thing is that Nick Tandy will be driving, apparently for the first time in about 2 decades, apparently, a contemporary Le Mans or LMP car at Brands Hatch. Quite incredible.
Yes, so as you say, the first time in about 20 years when they've raced, or not raced, but driven a contemporary prototype car that has raced at Le Mans, at Brands Hatch. That's going to be absolutely fantastic. I mean, ask any endurance fan what they think about Brands Hatch, and obviously Pedro Rodriguez in the 917, the Golf Livery 917, just pulling a massive power slide coming out of Druids Bend. It's a really fantastic thought for many a fan, and I think it's going to be fantastic to watch. Hopefully ITV managed to get that on camera, because it's going to be rather quick. I mean, they say that the modern...
I'm sure, Paul, I'm sure it'll be on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like they say a modern F1 car could lap Brands Hatch in about a minute. So, this could do a 1 minute 10 swing quick. No, I imagine they're not going to be pushing too hard. But Nick Tandy being Nick Tandy, he loves racing. Obviously, JTR used to run in Formula Fords. I think they still run in the whatever the MSA Formula is now called.
Formula
and the
4.
Porsche Carrera. Yeah, Formula 4, and also in the Porsche Carrera Cup. So he'll be there with his team, sort of egging them on, as well as driving the 919 around Brands Hatch. That'll be a fantastic sight for the fans track side, though. And as you say, hopefully we do get to see maybe even an onboard, because that's going to be a fantastic view to watch around there. I mean, it's quite a rare thing to see. It's going to be one of the last times we'll ever see a 919 on circuit whilst it's still racing. So it's a really good opportunity for all of the fans trackside, and really for Porsche and the Toka package. It's going to add to what is going to be a fantastic finals day meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure, and it's kind of, I would say, unprecedented in touring car recent history. Anyway, I know they've done well. I don't, to be honest. I mean, I think, should touring cars do more of this sort of brilliant stuff? Are they kind of, or should they be kind of opening the door and maybe welcoming other big iconic demo runs or other massive champion? What I'm asking is, really, should they have the historic Formula Ones on the bill? That's what we're all thinking. Or vice versa.
It's not what we're all thinking. Okay, let's start. I know you are. That's why you said it. Let's start out with. It would be great to see more demonstrations. I know they used to a couple of years ago, when Formula 4 was going to become a thing, or MSA Formula at the time. They did a couple of demos with that car. It would be great to see some more, even older school touring cars, because obviously I remember going to Brands Hatch, or Park rather, in 2014 when they had the Super Touring cars there, and it's the first time I'd ever seen at a race meeting when all the touring car races had finished, and bearing in mind it completely rained by this point. The first time that 40,000 touring car fans would stay solidly in the banks after the final touring car race. They were all waiting for the Super Tourer. So there is a massive sort of crowd and sort of demand for these kinds of historic cars. Maybe it'd be great to see historic Formula 1, but it is the circuits, most of them are a bit too tight that touring cars go to. I mean, if you want to do it properly, I mean, have historic F1 around Knock Hill. I mean, I think that would go very well indeed, but it'd be great to see historic groups. Oh, shush you. But it'd be great to see, the Super Touring cars back on the package. It'd be great to see any sort of historic racing, maybe Formula Ford or something, because there is a big history, not only of the Touring Car Championship, but also the support races that they use to support the championship.
Certainly, and if you've got any opinions on what indeed should be if any, is the Toka package perfect in your view? Then let us know. Get in touch with us this evening on our live show. It's at M Sport Radio on Twitter. It's Motorsport Radio on the old Facebook as well, or you can just comment on the comments box of this live stream, which is jolly good indeed, I must say. Fantastic, absolutely. So yeah, that was the main bit of big news, and I personally, I'd like to see that. That would be, I'd say, kind of co-headlining the bill and added an extra, not that it needed a bit of extra spice for the touring car finale package, but it does kind of, that's a big crowd puller, I would say. But anyway, so yeah, Nick Tandy then will demo his Le Mans winning Porsche at Brands Hatch at the touring car finale in a few weeks' time. We will get to touring cars and what happened at Silverstone in just a moment. Also, as well, big news for Britain's Jack Aitken as well, or Singapore, Britain, the Jack Aitken. He will be doing a Kubica and testing the Renault F1 car this week at Jerez. Apparently, it's going to be his first experience of driving an F1 car, which I find kind of hard to believe because, he seems to have been around a few years, Jack Aitken. He's one of those sort of names that's always there or thereabouts. Certainly, maybe I've just been paying too much attention to him. But
I think that's the answer.
Okay. Hashtag not a stalker. Robert Kubica, though, he will be driving the same vehicle, apparently, that everybody fapped over when Robert Kubica jumped back in the car and everyone thought it was going to be the second coming and that Senna was back alive again. But I said at the time, just chill out, people. He's not coming back. It was just a demo run. But this, for Aitken, could actually be a proper signalling career move, potentially. Really?
By all accounts, it's great to see that they're giving young drivers a chance to actually go out and drive these cars because, we don't have in-season testing anymore. We don't get these opportunities, really, to see the young drivers up and coming testing these cars out. It would be a great thing for Jack. Watching him in GP3 this year, it's been absolutely fantastic. But
yeah, I think he's second in the championship at the...
It's been a really good championship in GP3 this year. And it's going to be a good season end. But it's just, again, as you say, as you suggested, people, although I don't really want to use the word fapped over Robert Kubica when he joined and did his test in Hungary.
Yeah, the media hysteria
overestimate this, but don't underestimate what this is going to be. It could be, as you say.
What I mean by it is it's more significant in terms of somebody's career that Jack Aitken should be testing the Renault over someone who we kind of all, if we're all honest with ourselves, we all kind of know Kubica's a bit past it for well-documented reasons. That's not to say, we don't like Kubica, but he's had his chance in Formula One, and he's not going to be featuring in any F1 race any more than Billy Monger will.
Well, you never know.
I do. I kind of do. I've got a feeling. I've got like a 99% strong feeling.
You've got a gut feeling. You're connected to the Matrix, are you?
It's really not hard to figure out that it's going to be like that. But anyway, Jack Aitken, great news for him. Anyway, and incidentally, by the way, it would be fantastic to see Billy Monger back in a single seater, which I understand is being talked about. And that would be good. But in terms of serious competitive current Formula One racing, it's a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
You never know.
I do know. Sorry. Anyway, moving
on.
The main big news then was that Nick Tandy would be sort of debuting debuting that car at Brands Hatch, really, and also other big massive news, which I suppose we will sort of wrap up into other big news as well, because it's Formula One talk now, and not really that much to talk about. Nothing really happened in the race apart from a championship
nothing at all. It was such a boring race.
Nothing at all.
What we can certainly say is that I think most people here watched at least the first lap. And it was. I'm not going to get into all the nonsense about what other people have said on Facebook and Twitter about whose fault is it, and drawing lines on pictures and doing what Ferrari did about blaming other drivers who had a right to be on the track at the same time and fighting for position, blah, blah, blah. Instead, I'll ask you to do that, Dan. Incidentally, we will bring in Phil Kinch and Ryan Forward in just a second to divulge their opinions on this debate as well. We're just working hard to get them in on the programme. Incidentally, while we're doing that, we want to know your thoughts as well. It's at M Sport Radio on Twitter. See, I forget we're streaming in so many different places now. It's at M Sport Radio on Twitter, Motorsport Radio on Facebook, and the comments box in this stream below as well. We are streaming right now on YouTube, on the Motorsport Radio website, on the Motorsport Radio Facebook, on Twitch, on something else, on this. I'm feeling like there's too many places that we're doing things.
Lots of the places, all the places. The best places, only the best places, like the world has never seen.
This is Motorsport Radio, by the way, and it's fantastic to have you. And a couple of comments are flooded in already, Dan. Hello to Tim Davis. It says, evening, guys. Hello. Good evening, Tim. And to Paul Clark as well, and to Noel Davy Clark as well. The legend that is Dan, says Noel. That could be very well true. Paul Clark.
Nice to hear from you as well, Noel.
I'm guessing you two know each other.
Yeah, I work with him.
Okay. Paul Clark says Nick Tandy at Brands Hatch and not in a Formula Ford. Well, he might be, actually. I mean, he could. I mean, it's the festival soon, isn't it?
Soon. So it's in a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, October-ish, I think. Yeah, it is on October. I thought it was like November time-ish, but anyway. That'd be good to see him back as well. We've not heard anything, incidentally, regarding Scott Malvern. He usually comes out of his Formula Ford retirement just to do that one race. We did talk to him about it, though, over the season in various British GT rounds. And he was kind of inclined to not do it, but he didn't entirely rule it out. So anyway, that's a bit of non-Formula Ford festival news for you. Also, Tim Davies says the Super Tourers were at Rockingham a few years ago too with the BTCC. Were they at Rockingham?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I know they were at Alton, but
yeah, the season after they raced at Rockingham, but sadly it was quite a low entry, only like 15 cars or something. It wasn't a great race. And to be honest, if you're going to run the Super Tourers, run them at a circuit which personally
Isn't
has
Rockingham.
some form of atmosphere.
Oh, sorry, Rockingham.
Well,
Dan, you're so mean. You're such a bitch.
We can swear now, can't we? But the issue is, I mean, Rockingham, you can't really sit anywhere anymore because all grandstands are common. You can't use them anymore. They're all broken.
Those views are the views of Dan Marr.
And also out of commission all of the grandstands but the main one. I mean, to be fair, it's quite a nice grandstand to sit and watch because you can see everything. It's just been nice to go and sit somewhere else.
I would be surprised if they let you back in again, Dan, to be honest. But yeah, whatever.
Rockingham's a good circuit. It's just lack of seating.
That could be said, potentially. That could be said.
Is that Lester Forbes sitting on the fence? It's the first time I've heard him do that.
Yes, well, someone's got to, I suppose. I am the... yes. So, yeah, Rockingham. Okay, yeah, I'd probably gently agree with that. But at the same time, I'd probably not want to upset Rockingham, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, to be fair, let's give them credit where credit's due.
They do have a good circuit.
Yeah, well, it is a good circuit.
I mean, it's there.
I enjoyed the British GT race.
Yes.
Early on in the year, that was a fantastic race, and then
the support
whole safety car thing happened. But
that were there as well. Yes, certainly. Yeah, I don't think there's any buts. Rockingham is just a good circuit, though. Should we just say that and move on? Yeah, for fear of the Rockingham Heights.
But to be fair, they do take the Super Tourers to Knock Hill. They have their own festival up at Knock Hill with Super Touring cars.
Well, that's good. Yes.
So it'd be good maybe if they could put them on the British Touring Car bill. Potentially on, yeah. I mean, by all means.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good race meetings they can put them on.
I did have a quick peek at compared the times with when they did race at at Alton Park when it was remember it was weird.
About. Yeah, it was weird conditions because it wasn't dry, but it wasn't wet either.
It wasn't really sort of representative of what they could do. And I did check out the times, incidentally, compared that to, say, a current, or I've compared it to last year's touring cars, and I think the pole position time from the dry section in that thing would have got them to like 14th on something like that on a current touring car.
Which isn't bad.
It's not bad at all.
Spec.
Considering that they're 20 odd years old, you know.
Well, and the fact is it's like a 32 car field to be halfway through. It's not bad.
It
with
is not
100 less horsepower and
exactly. So yeah, that would be it'd be good to see the Super Tourers back. What do you think? If you agree, if you disagree, tell us what you think. Let us know here on Motorsport Radio on Monday Motorsport, and we are live right now, and we try and do this every single Monday. We try internet and weather and time depending, and providing I've not been out gallivanting with other motor racing events and are too tired. I'm sure you know what it's like. When you get back from a motor racing event, you're just kind of a bit knackered, aren't you? But yeah. So yeah, let us know what you think. Should the Super Tourers be back at Rockingham? Is there a better place? Maybe have them back at Brands Hatch. Maybe that would be the best place. I think that would be the best place for them, to be honest. Right, so we were talking about Formula One, I think. Oh, we're starting to talk about Formula One, then I cut you off, so apologies about that. What was I saying about Formula One?
Yeah, the thing that happened, because it was such a boring race.
I never said it was, but I did. I kind of did. No, it wasn't a boring race. It was just that there was the one incident, and that's all
that we'll be talking about forever.
Yes, basically. But yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, that's it was. It happened.
Dramatic.
It was an incident, and
it was a dramatic incident.
It was a dramatic incident. If you don't know, if you haven't seen
avoidable.
it, by the way, Sebastian Vettel took himself out of the race. He at the start of the race. I'm just literally telling you this because I'm presuming that you watch better racing. Quiet. But anyway, so yeah, Sebastian Vettel basically took himself out and also took Max Verstappen out and his teammate out as well, and almost took Alonso out. And he blamed all that on Max Verstappen. Or someone in the Ferrari team did.
Ferrari did. The person who tweets in Ferrari did.
Yeah.
Can I just say, speaking of social media, the massive hats off to whoever does Fernando Alonso's PR, because there's a fantastic shot of him up on all four wheels in the air with the Singapore Airlines in the background, and the caption just says "Airlines, her."
Yeah, Singapore Airlines.
It's funny though, we're all talking about the Verstappen, Vettel, Raikkonen incident, but what about Alonso? If he wasn't caught up in our first corner incident,
he would have been third.
Possibly got to a podium.
Yeah, he was in. I think at the time when he was hit at because he did
about third or fourth going around the outside of the incident, wasn't he?
Yeah. Incidentally, I do want to welcome in officially, by the way, to the show Ryan Forward and also Phil Kinch as well, making his Motorsport Radio debut. And for the benefit of our visual radio listeners, you can also see us all as well. Hashtag Face for Radio. And no, sorry. But
thanks, Lester.
It's true.
But I deny nothing.
So Formula One then. Like I said, I'm kind of keen to avoid all the cliched debate and argument about whose fault it was and double standards. Should Vettel, even though he's already been,
and it was clear, but.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, he kind of took himself well out of the, for now anyway, the championship.
There's a lot of drivers that do it though. They start in pole position, and the first thing they do when they come off the line is move straight across.
It's what you do. It's racing.
Vettel's not the only one to have done that same manoeuvre before.
I mean, it's literally racing. That's what it is, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
If you know your title rival is alongside you or could get through or something. Not in this case in particular, because it was only Verstappen and Raikkonen. But it's kind of what you just do. You always just kind of just give someone a bit of a nudge into the first corner, make sure you don't want to leave the door open, do you? I mean, no. But incidentally, by giving someone a nudge, i.e. Verstappen, it also took out his teammate as well. And hey-ho, even champions and the true greats of sport occasionally make mistakes. And
everybody makes a mistake. Everybody has a mistake, which they can look back on and think, I wish I didn't do that.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm guessing he did. Yeah, the championship standings, incidentally, for Formula One now are that Hamilton is way out in front in the lead by nearly 30 points on 263 points. Vettel 235 points. Bottas, who's been kind of anonymous for most of the season, really. he's kind of.
He's been reasonably consistent, I would say. But just under the radar maybe as well.
He is third though, so I can't slag him off too much. Which is more than he is. I mean, he's in a higher position than Danny Ricciardo as well. Ricciardo on 162 points. Raikkonen in 5th place, ahead of, and then it's a huge points gap between Raikkonen and Verstappen, who could be the most unluckiest driver of the entire season.
7 retirements now. They got the point.
Yeah, sorry, Phil. What was that?
We're going to say 7 retirements this season, apparently he's had. There comes a point when he must be asking questions pretty soon as well.
I'm sure he will do, where's my next contract coming from? Yes. And there was a lot of talk, incidentally, the news that I've forgotten about, which I just presumed you already knew anyway, that Toro Rosso will be using Honda engines. I think that was confirmed. And McLaren have switched to Renault engines for, is it 2019 or 2018?
2018.
Yeah, 2018. And I'd just like to point out, I'd just like to use this as a bit of a self-congratulatory that word moment, because I was the only person who actually predicted.
Oh, here we go.
I was the only person who actually predicted when Honda came back into Formula One that they would be rubbish. When everybody else was championing them and saying that, it's going to be great, McLaren Honda again, it's going to be like the Senna days and everything's going to be fantastic and they're going to win everything and Senna. And I said, well, hold on a second, guys. Just look back at the last time that Honda was actually in Formula One and they were at the back of the grid. And that's why they came. That's why they re-entered Formula One. They've done all right to kind of get midfield again and... obviously, too much frustration, too much has happened, and they've divorced from each other. And they have kept Fernando Alonso, which seemed to be part of the deal as well, that if Alonso stayed on with the team, they'd switch to Renault.
Well, of course, because Alonso won his championships for Renault as well, didn't he?
Exactly, yeah. So why not do that? And there was rumour, anyway, that Fernando Alonso oversaw parts of the engine or the data as well, let's say, from the Renault team, which would be unusual given his previous history in, let's say, Spygate. Yeah, he did that.
Yes.
And Crashgate as well. Yeah, he did that as well.
And McLaren, let's just be honest, and McLaren itself, so... If we're going to kick them whilst they're down, then by all means do it properly.
Yeah, I mean
But they did the full announcement at Singapore, and they crashed at Singapore.
Well, he did,
and then PK got sacked, and then it's all Illuminati after this. So,
but so that would be the main news out of Formula One. In that, it's kind of looking. The pendulum is looking to swing firmly towards Lewis Hamilton for his 4th championship now. Is it 4th? Yeah.
Yes, it'll be 4th, yeah.
And it will signal Facebook users that he will actually be one of the greatest Formula One drivers, better than his idol, Ayrton Senna. I don't care if you watch Donington 93. Stats say otherwise. Lewis Hamilton.
Just to say, watched it live on telly at home at the time. I might disagree. He's one of the greatest. However,
can I just say, wasn't twinkling father's eye at times?
I only look at really what the stats say, and I like to wind up people on Facebook who constantly. I mean, everybody's seen it. There's every other post on every other Formula One Facebook group is Senna this, Senna that, Senna. What would Senna do?
I watched the Senna film the other day. Actually, I forgot how good it was.
It is good a film. Yeah,
it is very good. I must admit, there are some tear-jerking moments.
Yes,
and some stuff I learned from it as well.
That was the latest Senna news, Formula One news. I've nothing against Senna. He was a fantastic champion, and that's it.
It was more.
I just wanted to point out one thing. I was watching Friday, both practice sessions for Singapore on Friday, whilst doing the chores at home. I just wanted to applaud the PR services from Renault and McLaren and Toro Rosso and everyone involved, because within the space of about 30 seconds, Renault had announced its departure from Toro Rosso. 30 seconds later, they'd announced their tie-up with McLaren. Oh. And then after that, they'd then announced that Carlos Sainz was driving in a Renault next year for the full team. And the swiftness, military precision is the thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, they have been planning this for a while, though, haven't they? So, if you mess it up at the one point, it's quite easy just to schedule posts.
Yeah, true. And it wasn't exactly a big secret. I mean, most people knew about it anyway, like they usually know in Formula One circles anyway. So when it's eventually announced, it's not that much of a big surprise, and everyone just talks about it like they already knew about it anyway, which they kind of did. And that means that Palmer's probably not going to be in an F1 drive next year because Sainz has got that seat now. And
it was a good drive by Palmer this weekend, though.
Yes,
credit where credit's due. Yeah. Credit where credit's due. He's done a decent job this weekend. Maybe the first time in over a year and a half, but still.
That didn't sound like a lot of credit, to be honest, Dan.
Well, I'm giving him some credit. What do you want? Do you want
that's like saying, that's like this thing. That's like kind of saying, well, despite being the worst driver in history, he finished a race.
I want to. Well, no, we're not talking about Taki Neri or Luca Badoer, but still.
I've always. Jolyon Palmer is a GP2 champion, and he is a good driver.
So Davide Valsecchi, where's he?
He's doing a brilliant job in commentary in GP in Formula 2. Davide Valsecchi he was one of the most intense and passionate drivers ever, I think.
He's like that.
That's a waste of talent. Well.
Have you heard his commentary? It's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, it so is. Yes. I want. Can you do an impression of it, Ryan?
Oh God, not really.
Since you mentioned it, I thought, why not just put him on the spot? But no, I won't ask you to actually do that. Davide Valsecchi he's an interesting character and vastly underrated as a driver, in my humble opinion, as I thought he was.
He's one of the wasted talents of this generation, I think.
Definitely.
Okay, fair enough.
I agree as well.
Right, so shall we, unless anyone's got anything else to add about Formula One, just having a quick browse on the old messages to see if anyone's chimed in online to disagree with the Palmer theory.
Disagree.
I don't think so. No, everyone is in vehement agreement about Palmer. That he had a decent race despite being a crap driver. Said down.
I wonder why, but this is what I want to figure out. If he's not in Formula 1 next year, what is he going to do, apart from not base anywhere?
Blancpain.
He'll probably end up going to GTs, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he'd do Will Stevens. I can actually see him in Blancpain, to be honest.
I can't.
Well, I can, so there.
Could you see him going as far as an LMP2 drive, possibly?
Do you mean what will be LMP1?
Potentially.
Yeah, I think they're going to. It's probably best to rename LMP2, isn't it? Just call it LMP, and that's how you fix a
bit like how they used to do it when it was LMP 675 and LMP 900. They could still race together. They were just different. Oh, stop complaining.
I never said anything.
No, you just rolled your eyes as I was talking.
I don't remember those days. I'm too young for
it. It
wasn't that long ago.
It was only 15 years ago.
I only started following motorsport 5-6 years ago. Jeez.
Same, but still.
Okay, I suddenly feel so old because I've been following it since 30 plus, but we'll leave that one there.
My first live race was the Ayrton Senna race, San Marino.
Oh,
really? Wow.
Not a good one.
First experience of death as well. I didn't know what death was until then.
Wow. This is going quite dark for Monday Motorsport. Shall we move on, Lester?
Well, it is funny. I should mention actually, Ryan, because that actually was one of my very, very, very earliest, probably the first ever experiences of knowing, remembering watching Formula One. That was in '94. I mostly remember the funeral and the the BBC news coverage of it at the time. But from '95 onwards, I was sort of getting more into F1, and then '96 onwards, I was like a total fan. Anyway,
I'm not going to reveal how far back my first F1 race is because that will just be embarrassing.
No, I can't remember. I can't remember mine. I think
was it 84?
I remember watching bits like the 2007 Chinese Grand Prix when Hamilton bottled it, and then I remember the Malaysian Grand Prix in 2009 when it was completely
bottled
soaked.
it. Isn't that where his wheel got?
Yes.
How can he
bottled it because he crashed going into the pits.
Well, why is that bottling it?
That is called a bottle job, my friend.
That was surely a bald tyre. Why? That's not him bottling it.
I mean, it's no different to Stevie Gerrard's slip-up in the FA Cup a few years ago.
Well,
that's
apart
the
from the
definition
fact
of
that there isn't a team of people all maintaining and Stevie Gerrard's football. What you made me do, talk about football now. Oh, God. Right, okay.
He secretly knows quite a lot about football. He just hides it and pretends.
Okay.
Anyway, so we'll put Formula One to one side unless anyone's got any pertinent points to make.
Please let us know, when was your first Grand Prix you watched? At M Sport Radio on Twitter and Motorsport Radio on Facebook and all the other places.
Thanks. Yeah, basically all the other places. Yes, Formula One, that happened. It was a thing. And we've got some other news as well regarding something that you are a bit of a specialist in, Phil Kinch, as well. The World and Euro Rallycross Championships, because there was the Rallycross Championship in Latvia at the weekend. I think it was round 10 of the season?
Yes, round 10 of Worlds and also round 5 of both European Championship for Supercars and also for Super 1600s as well.
Cool. Well, tell us then what with regards to the World Championships, the World Rallycross Championship, there was turns out a bit of a significant injury for Petter Solberg. Tell us more.
Okay, so those of you that watched the race on Sunday, if you're able to tune in live online or on TV, unfortunately during semi-final 2, Petter was not exactly taken out. I think he hit a tyre barrier, then made contact with another driver, Yannis Balmanis, on home turf. They had to call the race to a halt, and it actually turned out that Petter was quite injured with regards to the contact itself. There was confirmation on Sunday afternoon after the race had taken place that that Petter had suffered a broken collarbone. Around about 2.5 hours ago, the team PSRX Volkswagen Team Sweden confirmed that he's also suffered 2 broken ribs and a bruised lung as well. So with the German round under 2 weeks away, I don't think we're going to be seeing Petter back out just yet.
Damn, that is that's a massive blow for him. To be honest.
It is,
and the championship, because he is one of the championship's biggest draws, isn't he? He's
oh yes,
he is like the personality in WRX.
However, he is celebrating, I would have thought, as best he can, because on a lighter note and a more happier note, his teammate Johan Kristoffersson sealed the title, or the World Drivers' title, on Sunday, and the team also secured the team's championship as well. So they've done it in one clean sweep.
Oh, well, that is good for them. But yeah, I did have the results up here to actually ask you about.
Okay.
So yeah, I was having a quick look and trying to catch up. Admittedly, it wasn't one of the things that I was able to watch live on the stream it all live as well. And to my great shame, I haven't seen any of it this season at all. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the actual the semi-finals and stuff, standout performances for you from the weekend? Tell us who caught your eye and why.
Okay, so I'm going to say Yannis Belmanis first of all, because he's in his second year of supercar racing. He's driving for Manfred Stoll, former WRC driver, driving for Team Stard, and on home turf, he not only made it into the semi-finals, qualifying, he made it into the final, and on the first start of semi-final 2, he made it into second place after the first 2 turns. That's about Yannis's best showing, I think, so far this year. He made the final in Sweden, but came home, I believe, in 6th place at the time. He had a wonderful showing on home turf in Latvia. I'm also going to put a shout out about Sebastian Loeb. Now, you might think that's not too surprising. He's really good. He's maintaining a run of podium finishes that is almost as amazing as Johan Kristoffersen, winning 5 races on the trot now, and taking 6 wins in total this year. He's basically keeping Peugeot along with Timmy Hansen in the hunt in the team's championship. That's now been like I say, sealed and has gone to PSRX, Volkswagen Team Sweden. But again, it's been a very difficult weekend for all of the competitors. Latvia last year, to give you an idea, was completely drenched. It was constant rain over the weekend.
Yeah, as we can probably, for the visual radio viewers, see that there's quite a lot of rain again. Is it more or less rain than last year?
No, so it didn't rain on, I think Q1 was the only dry session they had. On Saturday, Q2 absolute downpour, and then on Sunday with Q3 and Q4 again a downpour, and then the semi-finals and finals were in damp conditions, I suppose you could say. It didn't rain, but it still wasn't perfectly dry. So again, it was challenging for all the drivers. For those of you that know about World Rallycross, the drivers have a tyre allocation, put my tongue in gear, to be able to decide when they're going to use new tyres or scrub tyres to get them through qualifying. Very difficult decisions to be made, especially in changing conditions. However, that man there, Johan Kristoffersen, took the final win, the supercar final win, and was able to seal his first title. It's not the first time Volkswagen have won a team's championship. Markland Motorsport back in 2014, during the first running of the World Rallycross Championship, took the team's championship at that time. However, there's been a lot more involvement by Volkswagen this year in this effort. It's Petter Solberg's team, with a lot of support with Volkswagen. Tommy Kristoffersen, a former rallycross and touring car driver himself, has put a lot of work into the team as well. So yes, it's considering the project started in January officially this year, and it's taken 9 months to get to a stage where they've sealed both World Drivers' Championship and World Teams Championship, is quite impressive.
I noticed, I think coming into the weekend, I think it might have been on Friday or maybe early Saturday news, coming from apparently what Loeb had been saying as well.
Yes.
That the VW dominance is apparently threatening the entire, or Peugeot's World Rallycross future. Yeah. Is that... what's your take on that?
So I think that's a little bit of... Peugeot put some more work into the car. Peugeot have been a part of World Rallycross since 2014, when the championship became a World Championship, moving from European. And Loeb joined last year, I believe it's his second year. So it's a case of, I think that's trying to get more financial backing, more support from Peugeot and myself. Yes, VW have come in. They've backed Petter Solberg's team. The team has been very dominant. To be honest, the first 3 races of the year were run by Matthias Ekström with his EKS Audi squad, backed by Audi Sport this year. So a lot of people thought, hang on, we had this in 2016. Here we go again. But then Volkswagen, like I say, the team managed to get the VW Polo sorted. Petter took a win at Lydden, which was very special to him. Johan's taken 6 wins. So... yeah, you can say there's a VW dominance this year, but there's a dominance of a sort in Rallycross anyway. Matthias Ekström was able to win the Drivers' Championship last year in Germany, the penultimate round, before they went to Argentina. Petter Solberg managed to do this himself as well. So there's always going to be some dominance, but I think is actually pretty good for VW to have a bit more of the spotlight. We've seen Peugeot up front. Andreas Backward last year with the new Ford Focus took 3 wins in what was the car's first year of competition in World RX. So yeah, there's room for improvement. I can see what Loeb's saying. A lot of people have said about the fact of potentially a World Rally Championship I'm trying to think of the word, budget being poured into the car for this year for World Rallycross. If that's the case, we know Volkswagen are very good at what they do, obviously in World Rally recently, and have managed to transfer it over to World RX as well. So I don't think it's something Peugeot are going to leave. I'll be honest, Kenneth Hansen works very hard with his squad with Peugeot. As we, for those that don't know, he's a 14-time European Rallycross champion himself. Both his sons are driving for him this year, both Timmy and Kevin. Again, both talents themselves who will very soon be challenging for World Championships, if not already. I don't think you're going to see Peugeot go. I don't think you'll see Ford go. And to be honest, there's talk of Audi not having backing for Matthias Ekstrom's squad next year either. It's going to be a very interesting winter, I think we'll put it as.
Yeah, I think the basis of, going back to what Loeb was saying, he was kind of seemingly bemoaning the fact that the manufacturers up until this point have been spending a relatively low amount of money, apart from, and this is only according to what Loeb has apparently said, that he suggested that maybe Volkswagen have put in maybe 30 million or something thereabouts, basically completely outspending everybody. Should there be a cost cap? And would not having a cost cap ultimately lead, because one thing will spiral out of control, and there'll be a massive race to the top in technology, and something like a world endurance collapse or semi-collapse might happen. Sorry to WEC fans, but if you don't keep an eye on these sorts of things, and it's great to promote all the fact that yes, it's technology and blah blah blah, but that's kind of not really what World Rallycross is all about, though, is it? It's not about spending big money on tech.
It's more a case of there was concern from a lot of the fan base when it was announced this year that VW are going to be entering. To be honest, from a World RX point of view, you've got 4 manufacturer teams taking place. Rallycross itself, the cars are transferable in the supercar class, in the Super 1600 car. So cars that have been used in World Rallycross have made their way down to domestic championships. So I don't think a cost cap is needed in that respect, because the cars have a lot of longevity. For example, Liam Duran's team that uses the Citroen DS3s in British Rallycross at the moment, those cars were in use back in 2013. So 4 years old, and they've still been quite dominant, taking race wins in the British Series. I think it'd be very difficult to put a cost cap in for the manufacturers. However, at the same time, the draw of World RX is the excitement, the racing, the closeness of it as well. In the qualifying races, you've got 5 guys racing against each other. If you make it through to the semi-finals and the final, you have 6 guys racing against each other. But this is door-to-door, panel bashing, going for it, sliding the cars around left, right and centre. You've got 2-litre turbo monsters with 600 brake horsepower, absolutely sliding around in the best way possible. It's exciting stuff. So I don't think a cost cap is an idea. There's the potential for costs to escalate, however, like you say, with VW putting as much of a budget in as they have. If that does start to get to the case, then you're going to start seeing privateers being priced out of World RX and taking part in Euro RX, which itself this year has seen 30 to 35 entries, on almost maximum entry every round. So there are ways and means for privateers to go racing elsewhere, but sometimes they want to actually just take part in the World Championship. So it could be something World RX looks at, but normally the spectacle shows for itself. I'd be very surprised if a cost cap comes into place.
Cynical me might see World Championships. Obviously, they're going to have a big ambition. Yes, the World Rallycross is at a good level now, but I know that someone probably is thinking, well, yes, we're at a good level now, but we could be bigger. And obviously that's going to cost more money and budgets and yada yada. And it's a trend that motorsport has time and time again, where nothing ever gets cheaper. It just gets more expensive before it collapses. And I would hate for that to be the case with the World Rallycross Championship, because it kind of is probably one of the best visual motorsports in the world right now.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the most exciting motorsports. I'll be honest. I haven't watched Formula One myself, to sort of tie into that, since 2014.
I mean, from a trackside fan's point of view, even TV as well. I mean, Formula One started out, we know it was just racing around old airfields in and around Europe, but World Rallycross was seemingly specifically designed with the current needs for media, and it's a lot more fan friendly. Is what I'm kind of saying.
It is, yeah. You've got the company that promotes the championship, IMG, stepped in to sort of reboot Rallycross in 2013, which is when my interest was piqued by it. Myself looking for a more exciting form of motorsport than Formula One. So you've got 20, 30 guys over a Saturday and a Sunday racing at traditional rallycross tracks, of which there are plenty around the globe. And also you then got the advent of Formula One circuits wanting to add in a rallycross circuit into its facilities as well, because of the fact of you've got the viewing already in place, the fans to be at the capacity to get a large fan base
and the
into
facilities
the circuit
as well, like traffic and roads getting into the venue.
Yeah. And basically that's why the sport's exploded. It's something different. It's exciting. You've got 20, I think it's 22 entries this year, and there's been other wildcard entries, people that have decided, I want to have a go at this. Regular rallycross drivers that have a lot of experience but decided they didn't want to have a go at the European Championship. They've wanted to make guest appearances in World RX as well. So the draw is there, the excitement. They're very big on social media. World RX is one of the best championships out there for engaging with the fans, sharing the drivers out, the contact with them as well. The same with all sports. When you're at a live event, you've got the autograph sessions, you've got the monster t-shirt gun firing sessions I've seen. I've actually been to one myself, but they take a lot of time. They make a lot of effort to engage, and again, that's something that other series, I'm not going to name, but other series out there could learn from by engaging with the fans and showing, we've got a spectacle here. It's worth watching. It's worth tuning in for.
You're absolutely right. Sorry, go on, Ryan.
I'd like to add as well, because we're talking about Rallycross at the moment, that with Phil's description here how good Rallycross is, the British Rallycross Championship is actually visiting Pembrey Circuit in Carmarthenshire this weekend. Ooh. And we'll be racing in both directions. So if people want to go down and sample a bit of Rallycross, head down to Pembrey this weekend.
I think what you mean is,
Ryan.
Yeah, go down to Pembrey and yes. And sample, because that's something. Admittedly, I didn't actually know that's where they were going, because my motorsport attention is elsewhere at the moment, but good spot. And once again, motorsport in Wales is you can always rely on Ryan Forward to let you know who's doing well in or flying the Welsh flag for Welsh motorsport. Is there, and I probably should have researched this before asking you this, but are there any Welsh people in the thing?
Sorry.
In the British Rallycross, are they?
There is a Welsh racer called Jeff Hope Davis in the BTRDA Rallycross.
Oh yeah.
There's a Welshman in the British Rallycross, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I think it's Hopkins or something.
Oh, okay.
There is one guy who's Welsh there. Anyway, I do know that for definite. Okay. I just can't remember it off the top of my head because he's not on Twitter. He isn't.
Fair enough. Well, I thought I'd ask anyway, because obviously I have no clue who's Welsh in the British Rallycross Championship. So apologies to Welsh rally drivers everywhere.
Trust me, I'm pretty sure, Lester, they'll remind you or find a way to let you know they're out there. Again, British Rallycross, another very sociable social media group out there, do a lot of work. And this weekend especially, they're looking forward to the fact of they're able to use Pembrey in both directions.
Oh, that's good. One thing that you touched on a moment ago that I wanted to ask you about, and I know there's been a bit of controversy regarding it in rallycross circles, let's say, is the soon-to-be Silverstone round of the championship. Now, like I say, I'm not ensconced in the World Rallycross community, so I have to take my expert opinions from people like yourself, Phil, who write about it in so much detail. And it hasn't escaped my attention that there has been a bit of an uproar. Is this? Tell us more about it for those who don't know. And are they correct in what they're saying?
Okay, so January. This year, I believe it's actually the 2nd or 3rd of January, World Rallycross announced that they'd signed a 3-year deal with Silverstone for the British round of World RX to move to the home of British Motorsport.
It's an abomination.
Yes, exactly. And to be honest, social media sort of exploded as I was writing my article that particular day with the fact of why is it moving from Linden Hill? Why should it move from Linden Hill? Why should it go to Silverstone? Like I say, my experience of rallycross has been in the last 3 to 4 years since it was reinvented and exploded as a popular sport. So, one, I have no problem with World RX at Linden Hill. I saw a British round, ironically, the year of marriage during the honeymoon back in 2015. Mrs. Kinch was enormously happy the day we were there because we got completely soaked for an August bank holiday Monday. But popular. Yes, very. But at the same time, it's a very good venue, Linden Hill. There's nothing wrong with Linden Hill as a venue. However, we're looking at a world championship, and world championships look to have the best venues, the best facilities, and also the ones that offer the best spectacle. And, basically, it's a world championship. You're always looking for the best of everything. Now, there is nothing wrong with Linden Hill. Yes, it could do with an upgrade of facilities. Pat Duran and his team have done a lot of work to stress, and I have no issue here with the work they've done at all, to be clear on that as well. There's done a lot of work over the last few years to get the circuit up to scratch and to try and meet the demands. They've had a lot of difficulties with local councils to try and get permission to do a lot of the work they want to do for the circuit. They've not been successful. It is something they're still trying to do and battling, very hard for. However, World RX has said, we need something bigger and better. I went to the Speed Festival event in May. I was quite lucky to be invited along.
That was luckily enough, the promo event for displaying the Silverstone thing.
Yeah, so they had the track there. There weren't any grandstands set up. It was literally just the actual rallycross track they're going to use. A very interesting day. It's very, very interesting circuits. Is there room for improvement? Yes, but not being funny. The round, the World RX round will take place in May next year. This was May this year. They've got another 12 months before they get everything up to speed and up to scratch. I enjoyed myself. I was, lucky to see quite a few people there. Ironically, Mr. Solberg, who's currently recovering, best wishes to you, sir. And also, the brand new 2017 world champion, Johan Kristoffersen. There's good facilities. What they have planned, it's not just going to be a world championship event. It is a case of there are other things taking place, music festivals, high quality food. You get the chance to go and hire an Aston Martin, a high performance car, take it around the Silverstone itself whilst the event's going on. So if you don't fancy the racing, there's also things like the gaming community as well. Again, Dirt 4 was released earlier this year, which features the World Rallycross Championship, has a gaming mode on it. Very, very heavily involved in trying to get gaming to the public as well. So you have the chance to actually go and, whilst Pet Solberg's taking his VW Polo around Silverstone, you could be having a go yourself on one of the gaming stations. There's a lot going on that's happening. Is it a good thing? I think it's a good thing. I like what I see. Again, I have no problem with Linden Hill holding things, but if this is the decision that's been made, obviously contracts have been signed, this is what's happening. The last sort of update that was mentioned was the possibility that the European Rallycross Championship could potentially go back to Linden Hill for a British round. Again, I see no reason with that. I see no problem with that. I love the idea of it.
Would that be like the perfect fans scenario, or for the fans who don't like it going to Silverstone?
Yeah, I think it would. World Rallycross and European Rallycross, okay, European Rallycross is the best in Europe, the best of the best that can be. And for Linden Hill, there is a sort of fairy tale thing there. European Rallycross has been there for many, many, many years. So I can't see it being a bad idea. But again, it's down to, people sitting down, talking about it, finding out what they can do, and coming to an agreement. Whatever happens, World RX is coming to Silverstone. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be different. And normally that's the sort of thing that World RX thrives on as well, is being different and doing things differently. So, yeah, I'm not going to sort of make any predictions now, but it's definitely going to be an interesting time near the event.
I can see exactly why they wanted to, or why they liked the idea of Silverstone. It sounds like it could become, like you suggested, maybe a bit more of a festival. A World Rallycross festival instead of, I don't know, I've never been to the event at Linden, so I can't really compare directly myself. But with the other things as well, perhaps other things happening on track as well. It could be, I know when they go to, I think Germany as well, at the start of the round, they have like a co-headline with the DTM as well.
Yes, yeah, when they go to Hockenheim. So again, that's something that's kicked off over the last couple of years. It's been very successful because the fans not only get to see the opening DTM round taking place, or opening DTM rounds as it was this year, but they also get to see the World RX cars racing in the stadium section as well. So they're getting two types of motorsport, which has been a very successful idea.
So there you go, Alan Gow, there's an idea for you. On the Saturday of British touring cars, perhaps move your schedule around, have WRX on the Saturday maybe, and then do your touring cars on the Sunday. I would be impressed if that happened. Yeah, it's not going to happen, but it would just like it would be to have, in these corporate commercial times, it's kind of unthinkable to have two marquee events like, for example, DTM and World Rallycross Championship on the same bill together, kind of playing nice with each other. It
works really well, and especially when you've got Matthias Ekstrom, who is a current DTM driver and a World RX driver, who this year decided, I'm going to have a go at both. So he had a very busy, hectic weekend ahead of him, but he made it work. So it's always possible. It's something you could, that could be conceived. You never know. But World RX and DTM have managed to make it work themselves.
A comment from Tim Davis, who's still tuned in here on Motorsport Radio. Hello there, Tim. It says, it's a shame that Mr. Palmer won't allow WRX back to Brands Hatch. He says the best rallycross circuit ever, he says.
I'm fully aware of Mr. Davis's view on this, as we often discuss on Facebook. Good evening, Tim. Yes, Brands Hatch was another venue considered, being before the move from Linden Hill. Mr. Palmer has decided it doesn't have a place there currently, with circuit improvements and modifications. I think
when he sees the success of Silverstone, I'm presuming it's going to be a success because, well, it's Silverstone.
I would have thought so, yeah. They're normally quite successful events, especially when they move to new venues. The benchmark here, I would also add, is Spain. It's had, I think it's 3 years now, we've been to the Spanish Grand Prix circuit of Barcelona for World RX. They use the last section of the circuit as a rallycross track, and it is very, very popular with the drivers, teams, and fans as well. So the possibility is there.
Once again, if you're tuned in live to our Monday Motorsport show here on Motorsport Radio, and you agree with what Phil Kinch has said about any of the topics, and get in touch with us. Let us know why you agree. Incidentally, if you disagree, you're allowed to have your say as well. It's not just about what we say and what we think. We'd like to hear what you have to say exactly. Let us know. It's at M-Sport Radio on Twitter, Motorsport Radio on Facebook, or you can drop us a little comment in the comments box on the live stream, wherever you're watching, either on Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. I could go on. But yeah, we're streaming lots of places. So yeah, that's, the main points then. Petter Solberg, do we know how long he's going to be is that his season over now with? No,
there's 2 more rounds left. So you've got the German rounds at the Estering circuit, which is another old-fashioned popular circuit. It is amazing. It's one I recommend to tune in, because the first turn is a hairpin. calamity ensues. In fact, if you want to see something rather amazing, last year's supercar final from the German round is where Kevin Eriksson went literally around the outside, known as Mr. Round the Outside, at the first turn to take the lead and go on to win his first Wild RX event. So if you type into YouTube around the outside Wild RX, you will find that footage. It is amazing. As far as Vettel's concerned, I think he's going to be out at least until South Africa now. Germany is under 2 weeks away. I can't see anyone recovering that quickly from the injuries he's got, which is a shame. They were planning to have a third VW Polo for the German rally champion to take part in. Whether they'll name a replacement driver or not, again, I don't know, but it is something that is common in World RX. They like to keep the cars out there. I think Petter, hopefully, fingers crossed, should be recovered in time for when they go to South Africa, which is the first ever running of a World RX in South Africa as well this year.
I will pay more attention because of you, Phil, for the... Not that
you will.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just one of those championships. Like, at the start of the season, when you kind of mentally pick out what you're going to be following at the start of the season, it's just one of those things that kind of doesn't ever make the cut for me, because it's usually F1 and British F3 and GT this year, and there's only so much awake time you can possibly have.
Yes.
Basically.
As you can understand, a married man with kids, so naturally there are times when the wife will actually mention how much more have you got to watch, how many more series you're going to watch this year, and there always seems to be another one adding along. But yes, it's, if you want exciting motorsport, if you feel certain forms of motorsport out there aren't as exciting, you want something that's going to make you sit on the edge of your seat and you want to learn about it, that's worth watching, I would recommend World RX or even EuroRX as well, because both series, the various categories they have, they are really competitive. Normally they're equally matched in all forms of it. They sort of add in, obviously World RX had the 2 titles, still the Drivers and Teams Championship, European Rallycross. The Supercar was won by Anton Markland, who's a former World RX driver himself, driving for his family team. The Super 1600s, again, Christian Szabo, correctly, has won, I believe, a 2nd title in his Super 1600 career. So you've got lots of different classes out there, and they all take part in other domestic rallycross series as well. As Ryan will attest, in the British Rallycross Championship, you've got a Super 1600 class. You've got a sort of Super National class, which is similar to touring car, I think. Exactly. There's lots of interest. So it's one I would recommend having a watch on TV one time, or if you fancy going to one, like I said, the British Championship or even the World Championship event in England, then have a go.
Fantastic stuff. And how can people keep up to date with your journalisms on this subject?
Oh dear, yes. So this is where you stalk me on social media. It's quite simple, really. So I obviously writing at the Checker Flag. So if you're on Twitter, we're at the Checker Flag, I believe it is. Myself, you've got at Phil_Kinch, where I'm tweeting about World RX, Euro RX, BTCC, and another form of touring car racing, I think we'll get to later on. And then on Facebook as well, I'll throw those in. So I've got my Facebook page, which is TCR Guru. There is a Facebook group called the Spotters Tower, if you want to talk about all things rallycross or keep up to date with that as well.
I think I'm a member.
I think you are. So yes, we try and share as many things as possible. We're also very lucky to have a lot of drivers involved, and also some team members as well. So yes, you want to keep up to date, you want to be interested in that sort of thing and follow it as it happens, especially when I'm madly tweeting away about it at the weekend. That's where you find us.
Fantastic stuff, Phil, and we'd love to have you back on the show to keep us informed, literally, about what's going on for the rest of the championship, even after it's over, officially.
Oh, absolutely.
But looking ahead towards next season as well in 2018, that'll be fantastic stuff. Right, this is Monday Motorsport on Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester, and we will be talking about the BTCC CC next.
This is Monday Motorsport with Lester Forbes on Motorsport Radio.
And you can get in touch with us this evening. We are live right now on Facebook Live. We're live on the Motorsport Radio website, which is motorsport.radio. Join the website. it's free to do so, and it's why not get the inside line on all the latest gossip and news that we collect from the paddocks wherever we go. This weekend we'll be going to the two places, in fact, to Donington, to capture the moment of whomever will win the British GT title of 2017. One of our panellists thinks it might be one particular driver, and another panellist thinks it might be someone else. But we want to know what you think. Who's going to win British GT this weekend and the finale at Donington? Let us know. It's at M Sport Radio on Twitter, Motorsport Radio on Facebook, and leave your comments, which comes directly into my face, and I will read it out for you. And it's always nice to be interactive and get involved with the show. Talking about being involved, we have a panel of experts who are literally experts, much better informed than I could ever be about, well, everything, to be perfectly honest. Dan Marr back on the show. Also rejoining us as well for this segment is Ryan Ford of Welsh Motorsport blog. Is Motorsport in Wales, I think it is, and also Phil Kinch as well, a slightly blurry looking, slightly really hope your internet connection doesn't go down, Phil, so we'll await on tenterhooks with that one, but yeah, welcome back, folks, for the next part of the show, which is talking about touring cars, and we've allocated almost an hour to this next segment because I think it's going to get a bit spicy talking about touring cars. I'll start off with you, Dan Marr. All the talk coming out of Silverstone yesterday was less about the great racing, the great spectacle, and the show that touring cars put on, but more about the shambolic driving standards and penalties and non-penalties and flip-flop of penalties that Toka and Alan Gow have got themselves tangled up in.
Yeah, the driving standards this year have been nothing short of a joke at times. It's been absolutely ridiculous.
Now, just say what you think. Don't sit on the fence.
No. Honestly, it's like watching some of it. What is this? Is this bloody banger racing or is this touring car racing? You know, I know and I understand, and I'm used to.
Well, some do both, of course.
Cars going side by side and having bits of contact. When you're running that closely in these sorts of cars, you're going to get contact. We know that. That's fine. But when you've got some of the ridiculous crashes like at Snetterton, the amount of damage that came out of there, Josh Cook got his fourth penalty of the year. Obviously, that whole calamity is just nothing short of a pain. But it's just... honestly, it's so disappointing to see, after being a big fan for years of the British touring cars, then the driving standards transgressing into what they've become. It's an absolute farce. It's an absolute farce.
Dan Marr says it's an absolute farce, he says. And
that's because it is.
Well, okay, I asked for your opinion, and you're welcome to give it. Hi, Alan Gow, if you're watching, listening. He did come out, incidentally. I'll stick up for Alan Gow, which I've never ever done before. And he did issue some comments regarding driver standards today, I think on the Monday morning, which in itself is kind of unusual. Is he being bowed? Is he bowing to the pressure of online comments? Has he been up all night on Facebook reading everybody slagging Toka off? Maybe. I can't imagine him doing so. But there was a statement issued, and it's on the BTCC.net website if you care to go and check it out. There was apparently, according to the article on there was much talk about the number of incidents involving contact between competitors on track, just referring to just Silverstone. Gow says in a statement, "I'm not happy at all with the amount of contact resulting in body damage," he said, despite the fact that we have clearly been increasing the amount and severity of penalties for driving infringements. We've had more and greater penalties this year than in any season I can remember. He goes on to say, yes, of course, when there are 32 cars blanketed by just 9/10 of a second during quali, then it's almost inevitable that some degree of minor contact and mistakes will occur. And some drivers are truly superb and PR and stuff. But Ryan Forward, you watched the racing yesterday. Was it absolutely shambolic? Is Alan Gow crumbling under pressure from fans on the internets? Is he just making a massive mistake in I mean, what's going on?
Well, the British touring cars has always had a reputation of being a crash bang wallop series, but I think in the last few rounds this year, it's been borderline questionable, some of the manoeuvres pulled by some of the drivers. We had a really lucky escape, I feel, on Sunday with Rob Collard and Will Burns, and the same almost happened to Gordon Shedden in race 3 as well, where he went across the same bit of grass and just got missed by Mike Epps as well. So yeah, it was a bit questionable, some of the manoeuvres pulled this weekend, and I think it's about time now Alan Gowd does need to kind of man up and start giving out a few more penalties before somebody actually does really get seriously injured, because, you know, it's all well and good. Fans tune into the British touring cars because it's so close, because it's so competitive, because it's this crash bang wallop kind of nature to it. But at the end of the day, the drivers are humans, and if they get injured, or, you know, motorsport's never safe, you know, worst case scenario, gets killed, it's something that's got to be done before it gets to that stage, I think. Yeah, and some of the maneuvers for the drivers were questionable this weekend.
Wow, I mean, do you really think it could, Phil Kinch, come to that? Could it? I mean, like Ryan said, it's always been a bit of a crash bang wallop kind of series. Are we just kind of exaggerating a bit? Are we getting a bit too hysterical after each and every round, with a lot of partisan fans on a lot of Facebook groups and Twitter and stuff obviously slagging? I mean, that seems to be the only kind of takeaway from every event. Like I said at the start, it seems to be, to me, you can miss all of the racing. You don't even have to watch any of the racing. Just go onto Facebook later on, depending on which pro or anti-Facebook group you're a member of, you can find out exactly what happened, who's to blame, and that seems to be like the main message of it, rather than what a fantastic race, you know, Ash Sutton and whoever. I've forgotten who even won the bloody races, because you know, all we care about now is who's to blame, and Gow's penalties and Sutton's, and the championship's ruined because of penalties. Is it? But I mean, Ryan made a point that, could we be at the stage now where things are really as bad as people are freaking out about, to the point where it's endangering lives, or has it kind of always been that way?
So, to give you a bit of reference on 2 points, I've watched BTCC since 1988. So, flame-spitting Sierras, rear-wheel drive BMWs, and back then there were no worries or concerns about when the guys would hit each other. You've got dented doors, wing mirrors and everything missing. To contrast that in this day and age, okay, the cars are a lot different. Tracks have changed, cars have changed, drivers are different. You know, we've moved on 30, 40 years almost. But I'll be honest, it's a season I'm watching this year. It's one of the main motorsport series I watch all the time, and it has concerned me. We've had a lot of accidents this season. Obviously the bad weather at Croft was a big issue for the accidents that happened at Croft, but again, you know, driving standards, if, for example, the contact between Rob Collard and Aaron Taylor-Smith hadn't taken place in race 1, you wouldn't have Rod Collard, you know, in the position he is of recovering. You wouldn't have Will Burns in the position he is of recovering, and the budgets of, you know, WSR looking to repair one BMW, which they're not sure they're going to do in 2 weeks. Team Hard looking to repair a VW themselves. That again, you know, could be difficult in the 2 week time frame we got left. I feel things need to be addressed myself. It's something that, you know, that he's looking at. Obviously, Mr. Gale's been very vocal. He will step in. He will say things as and when he needs to. As we're all very aware, you know, Mr. Gale is not afraid in stepping forward and being honest about the situation. In the press release, you know, they put out this afternoon. He mentioned a lot of discussion that's going to take place in the teams meeting next month, where they talk about a lot of things regarding the championship, the series, where it's going, what's happening, what they can do to change it, you know, for the better as well. Unfortunately, we're in a period, to add to, you know, the instance we've had this year, we're in a period where you've got, you know, 32 cars on the same piece of track, which is great. But at the same time, you've also got the social media backlash. Now, this is something I joined Twitter back in 2010 thinking, this is great, this is wonderful. But you do see in Facebook groups, in social media in general, a lot of backlash when, one driver is not passed cleanly by another. If a race doesn't finish cleanly, if there's, reasons why, there's been a controversial contact. And the fans in this day and age have the access to drivers and other fans to be able to say, this is exactly, this is how I feel about things. It's the freedom of social media, but at the same time, there are points you sort of think, okay, let's just rein this in a little, because this is what the guys are doing themselves. They're on the track for half an hour. Some of them are paid for it, some of them aren't. Some of them for it's a hobby. There's another full-time job out there they have to do afterwards to go back to work on Monday. I think harsher penalties need to happen, but it's something they're going to decide and sort out. Obviously, I believe will be discussed after the brand's finale. But we're in a position where it's been one of the most crash fest seasons I've seen for many a year. So yes, things I think do need to be addressed myself.
But it's also been one of the best seasons for actual racing as well, because it has, like Silverstone in the qualifying, to have 32 cars go and lap within 1 second of each other. Over 1.64 miles. I mean, that is pretty impressive. It's one of the most competitive series in the world, and the racing's been fantastic, which is another reason why the fans always tune in as well. So, yeah.
As a benchmark, I suppose, to add to it, with the penalties that have been received, obviously Josh Cook, it's been very, it's been out, all over about his race one ban, him trying to appeal it as well. In the World Touring Car Championship, the slightest bit of contact is normally penalised with a drive-through penalty there and then. They don't like contacting WTCC.
It's kind of in the DNA. I mean, yes, obviously we all want drivers to be safe and not hurt and blah blah blah. But if you get a grip, guys. It is dangerous, and occasionally people will get hurt.
It unfortunately is the case, but like I say, you've got some series out there that just won't tolerate contact until it's like I say, WTCC, they'll throw in drive-through penalties or time penalties. If you're going to pass someone, pass them cleanly. It might be something to consider again.
Well, I mean, what's actually wrong with kind of passing them just by kind of barging your way through? It seems like every little tiny infraction now where you can't even touch a car, even to pass them. It seems it's and with the fans.
I'm sorry,
Denmark.
Can I just add two things to this? One, the social media is not going to change anything. Fans in all sorts of sports go absolutely cataclysmically mad at the slightest infraction wrong. You look at football, for example, and the reaction you've got, go to Manchester United, you've got 75,000 fans sat in the stands, shouting at 22 men and 2 managers and whoever else on the field, for the slightest infraction wrong. So I don't quite understand why sometimes, I know comments on social media, sometimes they do go too far. Some of the comments, again, we've seen in football when quite certain fans and certain people we watch that put some very nasty, very sort of bitter and very,
and even the drivers as well. It's kind of, I understand why they do it, but I mean, like I said, going back to what I mentioned earlier, you kind of don't even need to be watching any of the racing that happened, because you can see half the grid jumping on Twitter and saying, "Oh, well done, so and so, you could have killed me there," and then that driver responds, and blah blah blah.
What? I'm not being funny, but it gets to the point. If people are going to start complaining, "Oh, you could have killed me by going at the inside," don't go motor racing. Exactly. Motor racing is inherently one of the most dangerous sports, one of the most dangerous things to do on this planet. If you really feel like you're going to be injured every time you get in the car, get out of the car. Don't get in it. Honestly, every ticket, every sign, everywhere it says motorsport is dangerous. I don't want anyone to get injured. Obviously, it's terribly sad to see people getting injured, people getting hurt, people dying. But, I'm not saying it's part and parcel, but it can be expected. It's a very dangerous sport. It's like playing hockey, and they'll just put on bigger pads and they'll walk through the pain, rugby and stuff as well.
Well, I think if to apply the same sort of... Sorry, go on, Ryan.
accidents just happen. You know, sometimes you can't account for everything. Accidents, it's motor racing. It is dangerous. Like what Dan said, accidents will happen regardless.
But
really,
as you say, but then the next point is, you know, why should people have to go through? If you can't overtake cleanly, then why are you just barging people forwards? That, you know, I've seen some of the bills that these guys have to pay at the end of every meeting. You've got to pay to rebuild the car. You've got to shell the bloody car sometimes, you know. Even if you're on a relatively tight budget of £700,000-800,000 in the British touring cars, that's a lot of money to be replacing panels. You know, you got to think a good quarter of the budget is going to be spent on replacement panels and stuff. You know, it's more expensive to go out smashing cars up. That isn't motor racing, it's dodgems. You know, people say, oh, the super touring car era was much worse for contacts. You know, that was much lighter contact. The cars were built A, better, and A, worse, so the panels would just cleanly fall off. But you'll find a lot of them could just fall off, whereas these, because they're out of fiberglass, just crumple up and then provide a bigger risk than having massive bits of bumper flailing around, you know. Can I just say, Rob Huff had a fantastic meeting, you know, starting 28th on the grid.
Absolutely.
To going to second place, nearly winning race 3, is nothing short of fantastic. Yes, his move on Tom Ingram was a little bit robust, but touring cars should not be, you know, we can go too extreme in terms of going completely sanitised racing. That would be fine if it was. You know, a little bit of bumping and boring side-to-side contacts and a bit of nose contacts, fine, but you shouldn't have to shove people out the way. And it was very hard-fought racing, you know. But the race 2 thing with Ashley Sutton and Colin Serkington, you know, what option did Ashley Sutton have? You know, they were going side by side, going through the final corner on the outside line. Ashley Sutton was run out of road. Where could he go? We see different drivers.
It's funny as well, because I've seen a picture on Twitter earlier where Colin Turkington made the same pass on one of the Audis. I couldn't tell whether it was Ant Niels or Ollie Jackson, but he made exactly the same pass on an Audi in one of the races as well. And Colin Turkington made the same pass as what Ashley Sutton got penalised for, and Colin didn't.
Exactly, and I mean, it's like with... this is what upsets me sometimes, because the British Touring Cars is one of the most prestigious touring car championships in the world. We should have some of the best touring car drivers out there, and yet we're seeing guys going absolutely hell for leather, bashing, pardon my French, but bashing 7 types of shit out of each other. But what's the point? Why are they spending so much money to go out there and embarrass themselves by completely destroying cars? You know, the manufacturers are finally showing some interest and actually putting some money into the championship. So why do we have to go on Twitter every race and say, oh, this was a disgusting race, how dare they not penalise X, or how dare they not penalise Y, when they've done this much contact to each other? Because it's a farcical, it's a joke, it's an embarrassment, because if we can't race cleanly, why do we go motor racing? You know, I'm not saying we should be sanitised, but we do need to be more careful, and more importantly, why make the move if you're going to shove someone else off? Because as we see with Josh Cook, just can't help himself. I don't know why, because ever since he's gotten back into that MG, a switch has turned in his head. Because all of a sudden he was doing really well, very well, calm, collected throughout the first half of the season. Moved back to MG, it just seems to reignited some kind of fire. And it was an embarrassment. It was an absolute embarrassment at Snetterton. His driving standards, both MGs, was an absolute embarrassment.
This is going back to the start. When we had this conversation early on in the year, Dan, we were talking about, what's his name, leaving MG and going somewhere else.
Josh Cook.
We were talking about similar kind of thing.
Daniel Lloyd.
And MG's not being as competitive. Maybe Josh Cook is in his head. He's thinking, you know, I got to try harder because his car's not as good as what other cars are. And I can't be as competitive. But there's no excuse for pushing people off.
No, I'm sorry, but if your car's not that capable, that's fine, because we get into the BOP point. But you know, the MG is getting a bit long in the tooth. It doesn't help that car's probably had more hammers thrown onto it and more crashes put into it than anything else on the grid. It's probably by now a complete wreck, held only by tape. I mean, I imagine that's what it is anyway. I mean, obviously Triple Eight, I'm not suggesting that, but
you kind of just literally did.
But in all seriousness, no, you know, I know the MG is getting a bit long in the tooth. It is an older chassis. It's still capable, but you can't, you know, as we saw we can't have races where you can't finish a race if your car's completely broken. And by the same virtue, it's actually really intelligent that they pulled out the penalty or the potential penalty for the infraction for race 1. What was it when he got the exclusion for race 1, the ban for race 1? Because what were the other choice? Because they either had held it till the end of the season and risk losing 2 meetings worth of points, which even in British touring cars, that's a lot of prize money they could lose out on by losing out on 6 races worth of points. But it then becomes down to a cost of why have we spent so much money to appeal it and then actually withdraw the appeal. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't understand some of the logic that goes in, especially MG at the moment, because it just seems to be misguided because they've just lost their way a bit. I think, everyone else has sort of picked themselves up and gone that bit further, and MG are just a bit stuck at the moment.
Do you think, perhaps, Phil, that going back to the penalty and the driving standards issue, instead of perhaps getting into a bit of a flap about it, which it seems like what TOCA has become involved in by rescinding the race ban, and maybe they can race on appeal and blah blah blah, and if they do it again, and there was kind of another incident where it happened again, but let's kind of look the other way because we don't really want to ban anyone, blah blah blah. Would it be better to literally draw some clear-cut rules by saying if anyone ends up in hospital because of a result of however accidental or whatever, if anyone ends up either in hospital or out of the race because of a move that you made, for example, we're going to give you a severe penalty. Everything else, including barging someone out, making unfair manoeuvres, everything else is just racing, because it is just racing.
It's the eternal question in motorsport, though.
Would that be a better way to define, instead of saying, well, yeah, in this race, so-and-so chopped him up, but there again, going back to that race, where he chopped him up, and then blah, blah, blah.
It's like Dan said, and Ryan, this is touring car racing. You've got drivers out there that will pass each other cleanly. Colin Turkington, Gordon Shedden as examples, normally pass guys quite cleanly, and you know where you stand with them. You're always going to have the difficulty, which is what Alan Gow and TOCA face, obviously, at the moment, after this weekend and the action has happened, which is, where do you draw the line? What is acceptable passing, what is unacceptable passing?
Well, anything that doesn't destroy a car, I would say. That's my own opinion.
That's acceptable as long as the car's running. But again, we've seen cars that have been gaffer taped up in between races 1 and 2, 2 and 3, that have gone on to win races. We've seen cars, they've managed to work miracles in the space of 2 hours or an hour and a half, the teams, with a car that's been damaged and it's gone on to be successful or catch a podium. There's no clear line. If you start handing out drive-through penalties all the time, drivers will start questioning, well, if I get too close to a car, how do I know that's not going to happen? They were, like Rob Huff said, I want to get in the car, drive it in a straight line as fast as I can, as he said on Sunday. That's what they all want to do. Unfortunately, you've got some drivers you can rely upon who know their racing room, who know who they can race against and what they can do. You've got other drivers that perhaps, I'm not saying they don't, everyone's got their on their own merit into BTCC, however they have, but there are times when you do sit and think, hang on, is there a little bit less talent here? Is there a bit more thought that needs to be happen? But again, like Huffy said on Sunday, he's here to drive a car fast, not look at where buttons are in a cockpit or try and figure out things. They just want to get in, get on with it, go as fast as they can, finish as high as they can. It's always going to be a difficult subject. It's always going to be something the fans are going to get involved in as well, because they all support their own drivers. They all have their own views. That is the way of, as Dan said, sports fans in general, we've all got our own views and how we feel. Yeah. The TOCA do what they can. The stewards do what they can. You're never going to get a perfect answer or a justified answer to an incident on track.
I'll tell you what, though, what I think, and this is an opinion which I know at least a couple of my friends share and a couple of people within the paddock share, is, would it be a loss if we lost even, 5, 6, 8 cars from the touring car grid? Because, I
agree.
I'm sorry, but if we're now having to justify why contact with cars is acceptable, again, we shouldn't have to be going, oh yeah, but it's touring car racing, they're all going to have heavy contact, and if a car's, not damaged, it's not crippled, we should carry on.
I don't think it's trying to justify...
That's not motor racing. That's not motor racing, though. But I think potentially thinning out the grid could be a benefit if it means we get higher quality entries, higher quality drivers, higher quality cars.
Never means that.
Because we all want to get to the pinnacle of the respective sports. But 32 cars, as we've seen at Knock Hill, Brands Hatch, Indy, it's beyond... I'm not going to say it's beyond dangerous. It's just hilarious how difficult it is for some of these drivers sometimes to negotiate it under certain conditions. So thinning it out to 26 cars, for example, a bit like Formula 1 used to do, would that be such a bad thing? Because yes, we get less variety in terms of cars, drivers and stuff, but the systems are designed for less cars. It will work better. I think it will certainly work better with less cars. We'll have less contacts because there's less people trying to impress getting up there, and it's just everyone can just calm down a bit because it's
I don't know,
slightly less risky.
I don't know, to be honest. I think just reducing the amount of competitors obviously means there's going to be less to crash into for each other, but if the problem is that, and if there is a problem, I don't even know, because I'm completely impartial. I don't really care who smashed into who. I just like to see good racing, hard racing, and nobody in hospital, which unfortunately wasn't the case this weekend, but both are on the way to recovery, so that's good. But could the issue be that it's with us? Maybe we have the problem. Maybe it's not... Well,
where are you going with this?
Well, I'm just asking, do we... Is it us that has the problem? Is it the drivers jumping on social media knowing full well that it's going to start a huge, massive argument with many different factions and perhaps something that might have been seen or incited as being a bit of banter to begin with? Obviously, it never ends up that way on social media anyway. So could the issue with driving standards and complaints, instead of reducing the number of cars or banning drivers and whatnot, could it just be that it's us now as fans? We're in that hyper-partisan moment where every little tiny thing gets scrutinised. And that the problem is kind of with us, because racing has always been racing, contact has always happened, will always happen, and there's kind of no change, really. It's unfortunate that there's kind of been a lot of hospitalisations this season, but that's not to say that it's going to continue or that it's a very dangerous trend. It might just be an unfortunate set of incidents, which, yes, you need to keep an eye on to make them not get out of control, but it doesn't mean that touring cars is recklessly dangerous or that so-and-so needs banning every race, does it?
Oh, no. But, first of all, we talk about hospitalisations, it's something that I don't tend to hit. You don't tend to consider very often. Obviously, the cars are built as safe as they can be, and hopefully we can learn from these accidents. I mean, Rob Collard's car, for example, fundamentally did what it was designed to do. You can't do a lot in terms of stopping the body move around as quickly as it did. Obviously, Will Burns' fractured ribs would have come from the fact this car stopped suddenly, not because of the fact that the car broke in ways it shouldn't have. So,
and remember Rob Collard I think it was last year when he got
2014. He had a massive barrel roll.
Was it 2014?
Yes, it was 2014. I was trackside actually.
Was it then? That far ago? God, I'm old.
Yes, anyway. It was 2014 when he had that contact with Alex Martin, which then rolled him at pretty much the same point in the circuit. And, luckily we are seeing these drivers are only being hurt as opposed to more serious injuries, and hopefully they do make a full recovery. But, again, we have to consider, obviously, the design of cars is going to be as safe as they can, and safety will always progress. We'll see probably maybe for the next cycle of NGTC regulations or whichever, as I imagine we see in TCR and stuff now as well, we're getting bigger and better side protection. Obviously, the subframes, which are mandatory, of course, you can't do a lot to them to make them stronger because they're a standard component. But obviously, they can be looked at to see how they can be better in a crash situation. But, as you say, sports fans are always going to be sports fans. I don't quite understand why now, part of the time, these fans are taking it out of context, because Sports fans will always do that. We've always seen that. We always will see that. No matter what sport, no matter when, it's always going to be a constant. It's always going to happen. It's just different ways in which it happens. Just because, for example, me and Lester might have some banter on Twitter, and someone might interpret that as all big tiff between the pair of them. It's just you're just having a bit of fun. The moment we have to start. Anyway, the whole point is, if you have to start clarifying things, that's not, you're not really living then, are you? You're just having to apologise for yourself. You are allowed to have an opinion, and you are allowed to have a bit of fun. So, do whatever you want, and sometimes you just got to be oh well, they said that, I said this, let's carry on. It doesn't mean anything to us. If the people involved know about it, it's a bit like the touring car days of old, in the super touring car days, for example, with the 92 crash, when they say a lot of the stuff that was written about it sometimes was, they always hype these things up to get a bigger reaction. That's genuinely how the media, us, mostly you, Lester, but still.
Well, you've got to, I mean, no disrespect to the non-visual and broadcast media, but when you're trackside or holding a camera or with reporting on a microphone, you kind of feel a responsibility to, I mean, why to report on something, and kind of, it's so easy to over sensationalize something and get a few extra
not
clicks.
That you've done it before.
Oh, I do it every show, every single time.
That was sarcasm. But.
Yeah, but it's so easy, and it's kind of like our responsibility to do that. It's kind of a way of promotion as well, because I mean, if I go to, if we go to, say, British GT this weekend and go, well, at the British GT Championship this weekend, so and so won, and it was a jolly good race. On to the next thing. Nobody wants to. Nobody will listen or watch that. And do you know what I mean? You kind of have. And going back to what you were saying regarding the old style, the glory days of, as some might say, of touring car racing. Yes, they did overhype. They did put on a bit of a show, especially when they knew the cameras were watching them. Drivers would be a bit more animated if they knew the cameras was on them. There'd be a couple of fake fights, which I know broke out a couple of times, just because, they'd give it maybe like an extra 10% of like, oh, that's terrible, because that's kind of what we all kind of secretly want to see. We want to see people at each other's throats, metaphorically, sometimes actually. However, one of the greatest scenes I've seen all year, though, going away from the controversy, was Jason Plato. Unfortunately, trackside, having been shoved out. Yes, that one. Trackside, having been bounced out of the race, unfortunately. Yeah, he should be banned as well.
Calm down.
On his way to getting back to the pits, stopping for a pint of beer. And that was... I'll try and find that picture of it, but you've probably already seen it. And it was probably one of the greatest British motorsport moments that I can think of in many, many years. So, yes, I would say well done for that impromptu. I don't know if it was planned. He seemed to have friends there or something who handed him a beer. But yeah, it was just a nice thing that I saw and made me laugh for a few seconds.
Well, where it is, it's situated just by, ironically, the media centre near the BRDC grandstand in the BRDC area. So they probably knew he was coming on his way and thought, oh, better get Jace a beer. But, I mean, if you're out halfway through the third race of the touring car race, I mean, you want to sit back and watch it whilst having a drink, or, just say, oh, damn, I'm out of the race and might as well get started now.
Oh, words.
But, well...
yeah.
It was classic,
So, yeah, before we... there is actually other things that we want to mention about what happened at the weekend. So, if anyone's got any final thoughts about the touring cars... then speak now or forever be quiet.
Comment below.
Oh, wouldn't it be nice to see Rob Huff back in 2018?
Yes.
After that performance.
Exactly.
My God, didn't he shake a few people's feathers with that with his racing this weekend?
Exactly. Phil Kinch, Rob Huff did make a fantastic return back to touring cars. He was almost like he kind of... I had the sense anyway, watching him racing, especially in that third and final race, that it was kind of his home. It was kind of where he's supposed to be, really. Come back home, Rob.
Yeah, I've got my own opinion on this as well.
Oh, what? Yes, do you not like Huffy?
No, I'm an absolute fan of Huffy. Okay. If anything, seeing his international touring car exploits has been something very enjoyable to watch over the years, and it was very, very good to be able to see him racing in BTCC and getting the Astra one up the front. Which Tom Chilton and Senna Proctor have been doing a very good job in trying to do all year.
I mean, they fought really hard in that third race, and I thought there was absolutely nothing wrong with that. But apparently, in similar, I'm going back to old arguments, but in similar sort of races with different drivers, that would be multiple penalties and they'd be banned for life, that sort of thing.
But again, it's racing, and it's also the third race of the day, which BTCC fans know. The third race, it's the last race of the day. Everyone just wants to go for it. Rob did his very best. I sat and watched the races back today as sort of point of reference. He was in the lead for 19 laps. So to be able to do that in the Astra in its first year, even with Rob's talent, is impressive. Two, the fact he held off Tom Ingram as best he could. Slightest bit of contact. Again, it's touring cars, no complaints as far as I'm concerned. And then going head to head with Matt Neal, again, a multiple British champion. Yeah, Rob's a world champion, but he's been racing internationally just as long as Matt. And at the end of the day, regardless of the type of touring car you're racing, their experience is in touring cars. So seeing them going head to head, Matt was in a better position, prime tyres, no weight. It was almost as soon as he got into second place, I sat there myself and thought, okay, this isn't going to be long, but Rob still defended as hard and as cleanly as he could. A cracking race, a cracking effort, but my own opinion is I don't know if we'll see Rob Huff in BTCC next year. Again, I can go into that later in more detail.
Yeah, I think I know why.
I have my own personal theories. Rob's been brilliant being in international touring cars, the same as Andy Prio has been as well. And seeing the Brits internationally doing well spurs on others to want to have a go. Dan Lloyd, as we know, he left MG earlier this year. He's gone on to do TCR with Bamboo. So you could see Huffy back. I don't know. I'm not his agent. I'm not in a situation to comment properly. You might see him back as a full season next year. You might not. But it was good to see someone of that calibre step in, take the car by the horns and go, I can do this with this car.
And it would be, as you say, a massive coup for the BTCC to get a driver of Rob's calibre permanently back into the BTCC. I mean, is it twice? I believe twice. World Touring Car Champion.
Only once.
Well, only once, only the one.
Yeah.
Just the one. Okay. But see, the Chevrolet years is sort of all blend in for me once, I'm afraid.
Yes,
so, he is a fantastic driver, and I think it really shows how well he adapted to the car and the sort of the NGTC cars, because we saw for Fabrizio Giovanardi, we saw Alain Menu, all struggling to adapt to the NGTC. Now the full season, Rob, had 3 sessions on Saturday and 3 races. He had about an hour and a bit's worth of running before he got into racing conditions with the car. They openly admitted on the morning that the Astra's not the greatest thing in the wet, but it's really shown how well he, someone of his experience, a bit like the reason why Tom Chilton is another great catch for the team, to really go, well, look, we need to do this on the car, we need to do that on the car. This is why it should be reacting, maybe you're not quite sure. Obviously, with a younger guy called Senna Proctor, obviously, who's just won the Jack Sears Trophy, so a fantastic thing for him, and for Powermax as well, really showing how well the Astra's been going. But, you need someone of international fame and international skill in order to really bring the best out of the car. And, Rob Huff, I imagine, a bit like Andy Prio, would become, I reckon, with a good, now he's got this experience, could come back head on into not quite a title challenge, I think, but up there, a bit like the Matt Jacksons of this world, who will always be there or thereabouts. But would he come back permanently? At the moment, again, I can't see him doing so, because it's just, I don't think it fits his profile. So it doesn't. I don't think it really fits his profile. It doesn't fit what he needs out of the touring cars. To make a career out of it, he's paid very well, I imagine, to go and do it over in Europe as well. So it'd be great to see him back, but I just don't think it's worth his time, in all honesty.
Well,
an interesting one.
Yeah, one area that maybe Huff could, and I think maybe Phil was kind of nudging and winking towards suggesting. One area that Rob Huff could be racing is, continuing to race in TCR for 2018. Maybe not TCR International, but maybe, Phil, TCR UK.
I'll try not to get excited. No, I can't help it. Yeah,
you're allowed.
Yeah, I'm allowed. Okay, no, not as bad as much as I want to. Yeah, we had a calendar announcement last week. Yeah. For TCR UK for its first series. It was released. A big jigsaw puzzle, to be honest, that's allowing now a lot of teams and drivers to seriously look at TCR UK as an option for 2018. 2 points to this which are really good. One, the calendar does not conflict with the BTCC in any way.
That's funny, it's amazing how they've managed to make that work.
It's worked really well, and it's been done on purpose. Which there's a second point which I'll get into, which is again has been massively controversial. The reason for this being is so that, if you want to have a go at TCR UK, if you're one of the the big teams in BTCC that are interested, and it's been documented already in the media, there's a lot of interest from BTCC teams. The option is there. I wouldn't be surprised if you see dual campaigns, but the way that dates have been aligned, the circuits that are being used, it's a really interesting calendar for a first year. It's really good news for everyone. There are teams that have put out mentions that are wanting to have a go. I'm planning to do this. I'm planning to do that. I think we've had 2 or 3 teams mention what they want to be able to do next year. The calendar in place now, and the reaction I've seen from it doing my work on TCR, is this is exactly what people wanted. And having this announcement now in September, with the first round taking place at the end of March next year, gives a lot of people a lot of time to get programs in place. Looking at the calendar, itself, you've got the end of March, 31st of March, 1st of April at Silverstone, which is before the British Touring Car Series, British Touring Car Championship gets underway. So the opportunity is there for fans to see what's looking to be a really popular start for this new series. After that, you've got 12th and 13th of May at Knockhill. So it's a really interesting move that, instead of going to Knockhill in the summer or after the summer break, as BTCC does, we're doing it during, the build-up in spring. They go to Brands Hatch Indy circuit between the 2nd and 3rd of June. So again, another tight, close circuit where we know Brands Hatch Indy always has a decent amount to offer for touring car racing. And then the surprise comes in 14th and 15th of July, so in the summer break for British touring cars. Normally TCR UK is racing at Castlecombe. From the experts that are out there, and as far as I'm aware, I'll be honest, my knowledge of Castlecombe isn't too well. It's not been used before as a touring car circuit, so it's going to be a really interesting weekend of racing for TCR UK to have tin tops running there and seeing how that works out. The next interesting part about the calendar is the Autumn Park meeting. It's the 4th of August, and it is just one day. The pure and simple reason being is that, you've got noise restrictions in place, so the idea being you have your practice, your qualifying, and your races, however the format runs, taking place all on the same day at Autumn Park, which we know is a good circuit for touring car racing as well. You go to the start of September, the 8th to the 9th of September, they're racing at Croft. Again, always popular for touring car racing because of the layout, because of the high speed sections, the slow speed sections. It's a technical challenge for the touring car teams. And then to follow that up, after the British Touring Car finale has taken place, you've got Donington Park on the short circuit between the 13th and 14th of October. There's 2 reasons it's been designed this way, quite simply. One, so it doesn't clash with British touring cars. That way, if you want to have a go, the BTCC teams that are interested want to run a dual program, they've got the option there. It is there to do. The second thing is, and this is the controversial point, and this is where I'll put my neck out as well, the series TCR UK is not a rival to BTCC. It's not a danger to BTCC. And from the minute it was mentioned, there was almost mass panic in some cases going, oh my word, what is this? It's not a rival in any way. Why
is it not? Specifically, tell us the reasons why it's not a threat.
Okay. So the reasons being is, one, it's not designed to take on the championship in any way. BTCC is 60 years old next year. It's got a massive, massive heritage in the UK. TCR UK is just another step. It's a different path in touring car terms for drivers to look at to see if they can't reach, if they don't have the budget for BTCC. It's another option that's out there, along with the single make of Clio Cup, Mini Challenge, VW Cup, that sort of thing. It's also a different step in the fact of if you're racing a Seat Leon, Honda Civic, VW Golf, you've got the option to go and race those cars in Europe because you've got almost 20 other championships around the world that run to exactly the same regulations with slightly different race formats, if that. So you've got the option to be able to go, do you know what? I fancy racing in Germany this weekend. You can rent the car out to a driver locally to have a go, or take it yourself and have a go with an equal chance of taking on people locally. So it's not going to, there's a lot of talk, there's going to be a lot of entries, there's a lot of talk, it's going to be very popular. That may well be the case, but it's not going to rival the BTCC. I'm a fan of touring cars, I'm a fan of both. I'm probably the one person that's weird in this world in that manner.
Oh, you're
it's
allowed?
Not going to affect
it is allowed?
I'm allowed, yeah, I'm one of the few. BTCC is going to carry on as the pinnacle of British motorsport. That's not going to change, but TCR UK is just another option out there for those that can't step up. And maybe, as we were talking earlier, with BTCC as the pinnacle, as high quality, as being the best, it's another option for those that maybe don't get on as well.
Okay, that's one point of view. Thank you very much, Phil Kinch, for that. However, I think a lot of other people have a lot of other views on this.
I'm probably getting shot down on social media as we speak.
I am having a quick look. You are more than welcome, by the way, if you tuned in live, to have your say and get involved and tell Phil why he's wrong, why it will be. Oh. I mean, I think he kind of said it himself. To be honest, all the reasons why it won't be successful are probably the reasons why it will be successful. Providing that, and it's a big if, and I know there's discussions happening at the moment with media companies and TV providers. The thing that will literally make or break it is to have live coverage of it, either on TV, on whatever Freeview, even online, just like the British GT Championship. As long as there is live coverage of it, it will be successful. If there's not live coverage, it will just be another, like the BRSCC said, not in as many words, but it will be kind of just another BRSCC Club Championship. And that is not what TCR is. It is it is literally aimed at being on a par with, I mean, that's what the FIA want it to be. The FIA want a streamline. They want a direction towards TCR International. They want a nice clean route towards the top.
That's not entirely accurate in that one.
Apart from Alan Gow, who for many years was the is he still involved with the FIA touring car thing, or is he stepped down from that?
So the FIA Touring Car Commission, the idea is that World Touring Cars is internationally the pinnacle of touring car racing. So if you're going to work your way up to that, for now, if you're going to work your way up to that, then the idea being is that TCR cars, or to give their official designation, FIA TCN2 cars, should be used in domestic series. Now, Marcello Lotti stole a march with his WSC organisation by selling the idea of TCR to other countries and selling it internationally. So he's sort of done the job. You could race in a TCR car and then make the step up to World Touring Cars if you wanted to. They use a type of TCR car almost, with some differences in the European Touring Car Cup. So it's not necessarily an FIA involved thing. TCR is through WSC and Marcello Lotti, but the idea is if you want to get to World Touring Cars, they would like a progressive ladder, and the TCR concept is something that's out there that's helping the situation. With the coverage side of things, coming back to your point with TCR UK, TCR Racing in general live streams its racing. It's done by all of both the international series and all of the domestic series, the Asia series as well. And it's seen as one of the reasons as to why the popularity is out there with the fans, because you're able just to go onto YouTube. There's no embargoes or anything with countries, as far as I'm aware, to be able to go and watch the racing live, see what's happening, and be able to interact with the series as well. I suspect it's going to be something similar with TCR UK, where you'll have live streaming on YouTube, and then there will be a TV deal in place that's either delayed as live coverage or, you know, a recorded program later on. As long as there's TV coverage, it's not going to do it any harm. But live streaming races for TCR seems to be the way forward.
Yeah, certainly, and I can confirm that. I think you are able to watch. I think I've tried to. I have successfully watched, I think, all of the available European TCR rounds and TCR Asia, and that is the way forward. And also the fact as well that you touched on, that if teams have these cars, it is easy for them to dart across and have a race in Europe. There could be, I can easily see a marquee, I don't know, endurance TCR race. Is that? I don't know if that. I'm not literally no idea.
Like the 24-hour series.
Yeah, that's it. Already happens.
So there you go. Right. So again, another reason why it will be successful, because if a team who, I mean, why spend so much money developing a British touring car, and you can't take it many other places, let's be honest, and race it? Why not just get a TCR machine? Know that you're getting probably the same amount of exposure after a couple of years, providing it's on TV in the UK. And also you can take it and race internationally as well. You might want to do a couple of races, or like you say, just rent out the car. And, you know, Belgium, for example, I know that, or the TCR Benelux races that happen there. It could be TCR Germany. There's so much potential for it.
And the 24-hour series as well.
Yeah, that. And that is probably why it will be successful.
Yes.
So...
But let's just wait to see what happens, because, you know, this... I've been watching, obviously, since the start of the press coverage and the start of everything with the championship. It does look good. I'm really looking forward to having a TCR series in the UK. I think it's a fantastic time for them to be coming into the UK. The only thing that concerns me is some of the things that I've seen about it and the way it's been marketed is a little bit presumptive that people will flock to it. You know, the numbers, we saw this with LMP3 Cup at the start of the year and last year, when people saying, oh, it's a fantastic time to get into prototype sports racing and an entry-level thing, and, you know, you can team up with the ACO and race anywhere. And
it depends who's saying it. I think it depends where the message comes from. If it's from the promoters, then of course they're going to say that.
Well, yes, but the point was, we had this, I heard these conversations going on some of the paddocks last year, and yet we had 10 cars at the start of the year. We had a low of like 5 cars by, I think, Silverstone or Snetterton this year. So, you know, we need to be careful that, yes, it is going to be a great thing, and yes, you can do lots of things with them, but people maybe aren't necessarily going to make the investment with it. So I want to wait and see what happens, but I think TCR is going to be fantastic, and the fact that, you know, we're going to Castle Combe, you know, that's extraordinary. I mean, they are trying new things with these cars, but let's, you know, give it a year and see where we are at this point next year, because you never know, because maybe it might just turn out that the people that do want to do TCR are either attracted to the British GT package with all the live coverage and the British GT stuff, or just go back to the Clio Cup. You know, there's quite a lot in terms of already full grids in terms of that level of touring car, because you've got the full mini challenge grid, which can complete about 4 laps at a time without a red flag at most. The Clio Cup, which can complete about 4 laps at the one time without having a red flag or a car in the air. How's Lucas Oreck been doing for the rest of the season? I've not seen him flying recently, actually. That's a shame. But
Dan, you're such a bitch.
Well, no, he quoted. Sorry, can I just say he quoted in Autosport back in April after Donington Park, saying that I'm going to have to get a card with these air miles on for the amount of airtime I'm getting at the moment, which I think says everything about the driving standards in the Clio Cup you need to know. this is my concern. You know, you need to be careful with these cars because these are actually quite big cars. They're very wide cars as well. I think they're as wide, if not a little bit wider, than the NGTC cars. Yeah. So, you know, around the very narrow British circuits, which Castle Combe is quite narrow. Autumn Park, which is using the full international loop, it's not using the island version that British touring cars use. That will be the full international circuit, as far as I'm aware, is very narrow, and we saw how well that went with racing last time. Brands Hatch, narrow. So you've just got to be careful again, because if you get too many cars, and at one point they were seriously saying, look, we might have to do heat races because of the amount of cars we were expecting.
I doubt that would. I mean, apart from Silverstone, every track in the UK is narrow because they're old tracks. They're not even designed to be tracks, were they? So maybe Donington and Silverstone, maybe the only exceptions. But yeah, one thought anyway, and it's just literal speculation, idle speculation, but it could really happen. I have a tendency for predicting things that could happen. Maybe not on this, I don't think. But I don't think yet, Phil, we've had an official announcement as to the package of racing that's going to be happening.
No, not yet.
One idea that maybe could happen, or no, maybe because I've already brought out the calendar and it won't. Have British GT already brought their
calendar? Yes, they were initially looking into it, but they decided against it. Which we mentioned this at Brands Hatch.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
Oh, yeah, we definitely did. I haven't forgotten.
Well, I definitely did, and you just sort of nodded and agreed. But see, this is what I think, as I thought at the time, would be a fantastic package. You know, British GT with a mini challenge. You know, TCR.
It would be a super package.
It would be a bit like the old LG Super Race meetings, or the Super Race weekends they used to be called.
When
they had the FIA GTs alongside the or European touring cars that they were at the time. That'd be fantastic.
It seems to be the case that whilst that was the general thought, and a lot of people thought it would be, you know, with British GTs, the thinking seems to be, again, we've not had anything official confirmed, and I think that will also help a lot of planning, is that it's going to be its own package, so it's going to be the headline of a package with other support series with it. But again, there's nothing yet to be confirmed, and that's going to be a big thing, again, for planning with drivers
as
and
it's
teams.
BRSCC, I'm guessing there's going to be 7,000 caterers on the bill, and a couple of Formula 4s.
Possibly. I don't know. I can't comment for certain, but no. The idea, I think, is they're leaning towards is that TCR UK will headline its own bill. It gives it the track time they want to have. Like Dan said, you know, they've. The tracks they're going to are narrow, so they need to be in mind. My concern, I must admit, you know, I'm one of the people that go, oh yeah, TCR UK, this is brilliant. My concern is they're not limiting entries, and coming back to the point we were discussing about British touring cars earlier, it might not be a bad thing to limit it. You know,
for the first season,
touring cars.
I think it might be.
Well, possibly. You know, it depends. And again, you know, I'm in full agreement with Dan. Come race weekend at Silverstone, let's see how many are there on the grid. Let's see how many are racing. But we've seen, as a point of reference, there is expansion there. TCR Germany this year had 44 entries. And it got to a stage of, hang on, okay, there's about 30 odd entries now still racing because people have either pulled out, there's been damage to cars, sponsor issues, etc. I think a limit on entries, because of how the UK tracks are, isn't a bad thing. If it gets to a stage they need to limit entries, fair enough. Again, like I say, first race weekend at Silverstone, we'll see who's on the grid, who's racing, what the number of cars are. But it's something I think needs to be considered, which at the moment they're saying there's no limit to things, which is a concern.
Dan?
There's no official limit, but obviously the MSA impose the amount of cars that can be on track at any one point. So obviously there's no fixed series limit. It's only limited by whatever we can put on the circuit. So Autumn Park, I believe, on the full circuit, it's only 34 of these, whatever they describe as special cars over 2,000cc, which is over 2 litres.
Yeah.
So it does vary from circuit to circuit. Knock Hill is going to be an interesting one, that's for sure. But, you know, maybe it will be a bit like the good old days in Clio Cup, or even in a couple of other championships where they literally, as we said earlier, have to have heat races, as they were dabbling with.
I think that would be a disaster.
I mean, yeah, but we'll see. It'd be interesting, actually. I mean, as a live package, that's quite difficult to do, I suppose. But
Yeah, I mean, we are a little short on time, and it feels like we've got so much to talk about. Indeed, we have. But I won't keep you too long. But I think, from my point of view, and disagree with me if you want, but I think.
Disagree.
The BRSCC have purposefully, TCR UK, and I understand why they've done this, because they don't know what the product is going to be like after launching it. They have a certain, a certain budget. They don't want to be seen to be a touring car rival, because if the product isn't better than touring cars, it's obviously going to get compared to touring cars, and if it isn't up to that extremely high standard, then we're going to write it off straight away. So I understand that they're keen to not want that comparison or make it out to be, but I think everyone is going to do that anyway, and maybe they're right to make that, to kind of quell our excitement a little bit about it, but it will undoubtedly be a comparison and rival to the to Barks, Toka and BTCC package. And if it does take off, the fact, I mean, that they've not limited entries, for example, it signals to me that they want a bigger grid. And yeah, they're not, they obviously they want it to be successful, and I think it will naturally be successful, providing, like I said, it all hinges on whether it's live on, not necessarily TV, but live online. If it's streamed live, if it's live somewhere consistently, not changing channels every other thing, like in British GT, what gets inflicted on them, unfortunately, because they get occasionally lost in the TV channel guide. But if it's live somewhere, if it has a normal place, every single, like a website, if we can find a stream, we'll relay it on motorsport.radio, and people will know exactly where to go, when, what time, and compare, because there will be the same teams, like you probably said. There'll be like touring car junior teams or separate teams. So if we have the same teams in TCR, we're of course going to compare them, and it's going to be like a touring car B championship, at least for the first season, I think, in future. As I mean, touring cars, BTCC anyway, has been at such a massively high level for so long. Obviously, every championship goes in dips and enjoys successes and less so. And we've seen that in touring cars in the past, and maybe it's kind of due for a bit of a challenge now. I'll give the final thought to TCR, to Ryan Forward, if he has any final thoughts.
Well, I'm looking forward to the TCR series. Obviously, like the other said, I think it's probably best to wait to see what happens next year in terms of the amount of entries. But I'm particularly excited for the Castle Coombe round. But talking about packages and fitting round the TCR, making TCR a package, I mean, they obviously got to be aware of a few things like the narrowness of the circuit, the noise limit at Castle Coombe and stuff like that. So we just have to wait and see. I'm excited about it. I love touring car racing, and I've watched TCR International, TCR Germany, TCR Asia, and they've all produced some reasonably good racing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing TCR come to the UK.
Yeah, I think we're all we're all kind of excited and anticipate to see what it will be like. And if you have any thoughts on it, if you're tuned in live to us, thank you very much, because we've kind of gone overboard a little bit with our timing, but that's kind of what happens. You're more than welcome to get in touch and give us your views. We would like them. Don't think that just because we're off air, you can't join in on the show. You can still add your comments to the video, and also as well, this show is available as a downloadable podcast. Yes, we also do radio, don't you know? Here at Motorsport Radio, so you can literally head over to the what I don't know, what do the kids use nowadays for podcasting? The iTunes store, the old thing,
the iThing, yeah, that's it.
Download it from your podcast provider, and or you can just head to our website, motorsport.radio, join up, not sign up, and you can keep in touch with the inside line. I know Dan Maher's on his phone, literally doing that at the moment. Right now, he is, and we will be. Can we quickly? Have we got time to talk about the British GT Championship this weekend?
It's going to be exciting. That's all I'm going to say on the matter.
Seb Morris.
Oh yeah, Ryan.
Touch wood. You can't.
I'm hoping Seb Morris and Rick Parfitt Jr. win it. I really do. But the Lamborghini of Minshew and Keane could be. It's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting, like Dan said. Yeah.
Certainly will be. Yes, it's once again the pinnacle of British motorsport will be coming down to the final round, and how exciting is that? This weekend at Donington Park, and it'll be live on Frontrunner TV, I think, certainly on YouTube, and we will find a stream and restream it on motorsport.radio as well. And there really isn't much else to say other than best of luck, everyone. Well done already to Enam Ahmed, who's won the British F3 Championship. We don't have time to play his interview, but I'll stick it online later in the week. Yada yada.
It's a great interview.
It is a good interview. You get to see me kind of out of breath and knackered and
sat on the floor.
Sat on the floor looking a bit fat. I shouldn't have done that in hindsight. But,
my knees were knackered after that.
We did a sit-down interview because I'd literally grabbed him as he'd come off the podium after having won his first ever big championship, really, British F3, and he's such a great lad. He's only 17 years old, and he's going to be in European F3 probably, or whatever it's going to be called, GP3 next year. We think that's where he's heading. James Pull as well, big shout out to him because he's been busy racing in other things as well. As has Ben Hingley as well, who is another Welsh resident, Ryan, who was racing recently in the European Formula Cup Open Series.
Formula Veno, Northern European Cup.
That's what
him and James Paul were both in that.
Oh, were they both in that?
No, it was Euro Formula Open.
That as well.
I think they were both in that as well, actually.
Yeah, I think you're just making things up now, Dan. Racing in other things as well would be the main thing to say. And I am kind of disappointed that I won't actually be at Donington this weekend because I followed them right through the season. I've got to know a lot of the drivers, and I have to thank all of the F3 drivers as well for letting me stalk them throughout the season, including Skype interviews and various Facebook messages, arranging interviews and setting things up, and throughout the weekend as well, just kind of hovering around and generally being a bit of a pain and trying to eavesdrop in conversations to find out where they're going to be driving next year. It's breaking news, but none of them ever did, so well done to them for that. It's been a fantastic championship. British Formula 3 and British GT Championship as well. It's been amazing to follow them all season.
It's fantastic, but don't forget, we're still going to be there. Just because good old Leicester's not going to be joining us for the
Motorsport Radio will still be there. I, however, will be in Glenagors for the next round 7 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing British Minibikes Championship. Yes, we will try and find a good 4G signal and stream it all live visual radio. We will definitely try and do that for you. And a big, huge congratulations to Bradley Ray from BSB, and currently also as well a Cool Fab Racing British Minibikes Championship rider, because he scored his first debut BSB podium, finishing third in yesterday's second race at Alton Park. That was a magnificent achievement by Brad, and I don't know if he'll be racing this weekend. He usually kind of is, but if he is, we'll tell you about it. And it's kind of unprecedented to see. Maybe not unprecedented, because we had Danny Kent racing last year, world champion. But it is nice to see such massive names racing on mini bikes with the kids in a very reputable ladder championship towards BSB. So that'll be great to see, and it's the 7th round of 8 this year, coming up this weekend at Glenagors. Entry is free, so Ryan, if you want to head over and I don't know, get the bus or something to Glenagors, you're more than welcome to.
I doubt I'll be going anywhere far really for a while, but hopefully next year.
You're more than welcome, and that offer is extended to anyone. Like I say, even if you're not massive on mini bikes, the racing is so competitive. It's so unbelievably close. It's like watching a mini BSB. And I'm not even.
You realised what you said then, did you? I don't think you realised what you said then, did you? I will implore though, as obviously I was there last meeting. It was a fantastic last meeting at Wilton Mill, so I do highly suggest following on for the rest of the season as it draws to its close. Just 2 meetings left to go.
Indeed, and
Glanagles is a fantastic track as well, so definitely worth going.
Well, yeah, you would say that though, but no, to be fair, it is really good. That's where I'll be this weekend. Dan will be at Donington. Phil, what are you going to be keeping your eye on this weekend?
I suspect it's going to be the DTM that's going to be keeping me a little bit occupied, but I've got a lot of prep because there is World Rallycross building up for the weekend after in Germany. There's also BTCC, and hopefully, if plans come to fruition for the 5th year of trying, I'm going to actually stay up live the weekend before my birthday and watch Bathurst, all 6 hours from Australia. Love doing that one, or trying to catch up with it. So yeah, just sort of taking a nice easy weekend, gentle eye on the guys in Spielberg in Austria, see how they're doing in DCM, and then building up for World RX, BTCC, and whatever is due to come.
Yeah, and you're more than welcome to come back here on Monday Motorsport on Motorsport Radio. And I thank you for making your debut. You've done well. Congrats. And to Ryan Forward as well from Motorsport in Wales or Welsh. I always get the thing confused. What is it again, Ryan? Sorry, I'm really sorry.
At Welsh Motorsport on Twitter. Motorsport in Wales is the name of the company.
That's the one. So check Ryan out, and he will be unashamedly promoting and singing the praises of all and any Welsh drivers, Welsh teams, Welsh racing circuits as well throughout this weekend, and including Seb Morris and Ben Hingley as well, just to name 2. So guys, thank you very much for coming on the show, and thank you very much for tuning in. You've done well done for 2 hours and 20 odd minutes or so. Don't forget, this show is also available as a downloadable podcast. Head to motorsport.radio or tune in to your iTunes podcasty thing, wherever you get your podcast from. Just search Motorsport Radio and we'll be on there, and we'll be back again doing this show in about 2 weeks, but we'll have a special British GT roundup of the season next week sometime, and we'll be back with the Superbike show later this week with Kiko Alexander-Giles, and that's it. Bye-bye.
This is Monday Motorsport with Lester Forbes on Motorsport Radio.